Good afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Mike Slifer here with a couple of updates for you. I wanted to update everybody on this line of severe warned storms, but we actually just had a new severe thunderstorm warning issued for northern Penobscot County, heading toward the I-95 corridor. It includes Patton, Sherman, and Island Falls. And I'm actually a little more interested in this one right now because it's showing some signs of rotation. So just a heads up, should this become a tornado warned storm, I will have to break in on air, but we will keep you updated online as well. But this is a pretty impressive line of thunderstorms that we've had that's formed. Stretches from about Presque Isle and Monticello south, including this warned cell that again is approaching I-95 near Sherman and Island Falls, and that will also cross Route 2. And that stretches back down through Piscataquis County. Dover Foxcroft just saw some lightning and thunder with this line, and then we've got a line of severe warned storms moving through parts of Kennebec, Lincoln, Somerset, and Waldo counties. These are moving east at about 45 miles an hour. The threats with these are going to be wind gusts to about 60 miles an hour and hail approaching an inch, so about a quarter size in diameter. So we'll be watching these as they move toward the east. I'm interested to see how they interact with Penobscot Bay, especially with the storm that's over Augusta right now as it moves toward Windsor and eventually makes its way to Camden and eventually into Belfast. And the reason for that is just because usually there's a little bit more of a marine layer there, a little bit more influence from the ocean, and sometimes that can help to knock down these storms a bit. But an impressive line nonetheless. It is tracking along I-95 and 202, so it's finally starting to move past 95. If you were on 95 or you know somebody on 95 approaching this, especially if they're on 95 south from the Bangor area, tell them to pull over and wait this one out. This is some pretty heavy rain and maybe some hail mixed in there too. Going to be tough to see. And then we also have where it's going to cross 202, I think that it's going to maintain its strength pretty well. I've been watching these thunderstorms as they started to fire up, and the good news about this is that they actually are kind of on the lower end of that severe weather scale, but obviously still strong enough to be severe warned. I'd watch out for some isolated tree branches down and things like that, especially where these storms get a bit gusty. I've been following along with our velocity data here, and here's the two warned storms. Let me tell you what I'm looking at on this. First and foremost, the line of warned storms that's in central Maine right now. A lot of the radar data that I've been sampling is not quite as impressive as it was a little bit earlier. It's not quite as strong. That's what I mean by the word impressive. Let me grab my query tool and tell you what we're looking at. So some of these pixels that you see, all right, let's see here. Let's zoom back in and let me just double check what the National Weather Service just said too. All right, good news on this is that this looks like it's on the edge of the moisture, and where you don't have moisture you can't really have those strong storms, so anything that fires behind this shouldn't be as impressive. Which is good news, but just keeping an update. We've got a report of hail in Somerset County, Harmony, dime-sized hail. No thunder observed with that shower, so that's interesting to see. So that proves that this does have a history of producing hail. And again, I've been watching the wind gusts. I have like 4 computers going to try to figure out what the best way to tackle this is. And I want to head up to that cell that we were talking about in Penobscot County. So you see this area here where there's red and green pixels right next to each other? Oops, sorry, wrong button. Let me head back to velocity here. As this storm began to tighten up, it looked like there was a little bit of rotation starting to form, and that's why this was tagged tornado possible when the National Weather Service put that tag out. Right now, it doesn't really show as much rotation. Let's see here. I'll highlight where I'm talking about so that you can see. This area of red is wind going away from the radar, right next to an area of green, wind going toward the radar. So this actually shows that there's a bit of rotation, and it would look something like this. in this region, and that's why they tagged it as tornado possible. The environment that we have set up for these severe storms definitely favors more the hail and wind gust threat, straight line wind gusts versus rotational wind gusts and tornadoes. But on days like today, we certainly have the energy to support some of those stronger storms that could actually spin up a brief tornado. Let me just see what the National Weather Service has here. Just got another report of hail out of Cornville. Hail of about pea size, so about 1/4 of an inch in diameter, much smaller than the hail that was observed in Harmony. And of course, if you guys have any pictures of hail or anything like that, you can always send that in the Near Me section of our app. Great way to do it. Just make sure you're safe when you're doing it. Let's get back to the radar here and track the movement of these storms a little bit more. So here's what we've got going on. Again, this line of storms, warned storms, is right on the edge of the moisture boundary. So there's a little bit more moisture here, a little bit more energy for these storms to use. And I think that that's the reason why these ones are severe warned. Have a history of producing some hail, and it looks like some of the gusts associated with those are pretty strong too. And we're still just watching this storm right here that the National Weather Service has tagged as tornado possible. Again, this does not mean that there's a tornado imminent or anything like that. Should that change, we will see a tornado warning issued, but that is not what we see right now. Instead, this is a tag from the National Weather Service letting us know that they are watching this for rotation. It has a history of rotating, and should it end up in an environment where we can just get a little bit more twist, a little bit more spin on that storm, it's possible that it could actually end up getting upgraded. But either way, this is also dropping a good bit of hail. We're starting to see some pinks get mixed in here on the radar too, and that says to me that we are likely seeing extremely heavy rain and some small hail getting mixed in there, as well as lightning and thunder. The other piece to this too is when thunder roars, go indoors, and I know that some people think that's a bit of a cheesy saying, but I think it's the best way to convey the message that lightning is dangerous. Lightning can cause problems too. So if you are under any of these warned storms, or if you can hear thunder, it's a good idea to get indoors. Just got another report out of Pittsfield of pea-size hail. So it looks like Somerset County, the northern end of this, moving through Somerset County, really did produce some decent hail as it passed. And again, we're still expecting at least a little bit more hail. It's looking a little less impressive toward Augusta, and that's moving toward Windsor. It's not quite as organized as it is in northern parts. And again, a lot of this has to do with the proximity to the ocean. As you move further inland and away from that marine layer, sometimes you can tap into a little bit more energy. That's one of the things that I was watching earlier, but we certainly have enough energy, even all the way to the mid-coast, to support some stronger thunderstorms. And we're still watching this cell near Patton and Sherman too. I'm intrigued to see what happens with this as it moves a little bit further east. I was doing some analysis earlier this morning, and it looked like there was a solid threat for some stronger thunderstorms in this general area where Penobscot, Aroostook, and Washington County all kind of meet up. Basically like Route 6 from Lincoln to Topsfield and then north to Holton. That area is what I was focused on for a few stronger storms, because the environment there looked like it was just a little bit more energized than other areas. So I'm not surprised to see this warned cell here. And I'm not surprised that they have it tagged as tornado possible either. But we'll be watching that closely. And I was going through some graphics, and this is a good one. The difference between like straight line wind damage or a microburst, for example, versus a tornado. When the National Weather Service goes and surveys these, the reason that we can tell the difference is because tornado damage tends to be more chaotic, and you can actually see a bit of rotation in the way that the trees fall, versus a microburst, or straight line wind damage, where everything falls in the same direction. So I think that that's interesting, and we always get a lot of questions about how we actually determine what that is. And I find it interesting that you can actually see that here on photographic evidence. Just got a message from our digital director who's running this Facebook Live too, and we've got a picture of hail from Reedfield, so very excited to see when that comes in, to see what we're dealing with. Not excited to see hail, of course, but it really helps to figure out what has fallen from these storms. And we do have another severe warned storm that's now going to include Lincoln, Lee, and other areas in Penobscot County here. So again, this one right here expires at 4:15. This is the cell near Patton. That warning expires at 4:15. And then we've got this second warning that has popped up. Not quite as organized as that cell north. So this is more like a singular cell that we have to watch for rotation, whereas this line of storms that's about to move through Millinocket and cross I-95 and track down Route 6, that is what is going to bring the threat for some stronger hail, as well as wind gusts too. All right, so that near me submission of hail was from Sue in Reedfield. So thanks to everybody who has been sending these pictures. And yeah, there it is. Take a look at the size of those hailstones. Not great for gardens and plants, certainly, and probably not great for your vehicles either. I'm hoping that this is one of the bigger hail. These are the bigger hailstones that we see today, and everything after this is smaller, just because we have a unique setup today for that favors hail a little bit more than we tend to see here. Sometimes on severe weather days, most of what we focus on is just like the threat for strong wind gusts, but today it's a little more unique in that the freezing levels are slightly lower. So as these storms build and build up through the atmosphere and tap into some of that colder air, the strength of these storms will keep pushing the hailstones back up, allowing them to grow a little bit larger, which we don't see here all that often. So that was why I was a little more intrigued by some of these hail reports that have been coming in, and I've been following along with the National Weather Service too. Looks like Winthrop and Kennebec County, we had a report of pea-size hail, and I haven't seen anything come across my social media platforms either. But I am watching just to see if that changes. Let me see the latest on what the National Weather Service is talking about for that cell in northern Penobscot County too. All right, so they're continuing that warning for the storm in Penobscot County. There's pea-size hail in Winthrop. All right, so thanks everybody who's been sending pictures and reports in. I actually have more on social media than I saw. I had to refresh the page. But yeah, these storms are certainly going to pack a punch as they move in. This storm that's moving into Aroostook County. Wow, that's a great picture right there. This is from Susie in Byron. Those clouds look mean. I don't know if I'd recommend being out on a raft with a picture like this, but this is what a lot of people are likely seeing. I'm sure that people today are out on the Lincoln Lakes region too, on the lakes in Lincoln. If you know people out on any water in central Maine right now, I would give them a call and just tell them to keep their eyes peeled for some of these storms. Some of these storms that are firing up are nasty. I do want to just shift to what's firing behind this. See this storm? This is the storm that we were just looking at from Susie in Byron. But these are likely not going to be quite as strong as the first ones moving through, and the reason for that is because the air is a bit drier. So these severe warned storms that you see, Bangor now included underneath those severe warned areas, and that's going to stretch all the way down 1A to Ellsworth too. If you know people in Acadia National Park, if you know people trying to soak up some sunshine in Bar Harbor, let them know what's coming their way. Bucksport is right on the edge of this too. If you know people on the Penobscot River, let them know that they've got a strong line of thunderstorms moving toward them now. Let's head back over to the velocity data here and see what the wind is like in some of these storms. Thankfully, I'm not seeing much else in the way of rotation, which is good for two reasons. One, I don't want to see a storm end up being tornado warned, and two, that means that there's also not quite as much organization in these line of storms, but the environment that they're moving into is going to favor quite a bit of energy, which is why they're able to maintain their strength as they move in. And again, we have a little bit more moisture in that part of the state too. Looks like we've got more pictures coming in from near me, so thanks everybody who's been sending those in. You can actually visualize the hail tracks a little more easily this way. Here's some stronger hail, or bigger hail, I guess, that tracked toward Pittsfield. And then take a look at some of the hail that tracked near Millinocket, the Katahdin region. But this is what I want to focus on, is this area of hail that tracked toward Patton. And we actually have a picture being, there it is, from Michael in Patton, who sent this in. Obviously heavy rain falling in this picture, and it looks to me like maybe pea size or a little bit larger hail, close to dime size in some of those stones. So this is that storm that the National Weather Service had tagged as tornado possible, that severe warned storm in northern Penobscot County. We also had a pretty significant storm in northern Maine, Madawaska, right on the Edmundston border in Canada. This, when it popped, I was very intrigued by, simply because it was moving in a slightly different direction. It was moving north and east. We tend to see storms moving either east or southeast. And because of that, it actually popped in Madawaska, became severe warned, and went right over the border. But we did see some, it looked like at least there was some hail underneath that. So if you were in Madawaska and saw some hail earlier too, I'd love to hear from you. I did get a Facebook message from somebody in the county, but it wasn't showing, and they didn't say that they had actually seen anything with that storm. But keeping my eyes peeled for any other reports that come in. Yeah, this is a pretty significant line of warned storms that we have now. This stretches from I-95, on I-95, all the way from Oakfield and south, including Bangor, to Augusta. That's a pretty significant section of 95. It's about 150 miles, give or take. So again, if you know anybody who's traveling in northern Maine or up I-95, down I-95, let them know that they are going to cross paths with this. That includes sections of Route 2 from Bangor and north. We've also got that warning extended now to include Ellsworth and almost include Acadia National Park. Really tough, because days like today where it's warm and sunny, everybody wants to spend time outside, but we are starting to see more of these storms drop hail and come with strong wind gusts. We've actually got hail video from Marie and Winthrop coming in a couple. I'm going to grab a sip of water because I've been talking for a while. All right. See what the latest is from the National Weather Service too. Waterville Airport gusted to 52 miles an hour. With trees in full leaf like this, that is certainly enough to cause concern for damage. Let me double check the outage numbers right now. CMP is reporting just about 7,000 people without power, mostly in Kennebec and Somerset counties. Let's see what Versant is reporting. I don't see anything on Versant's website right now. But again, it looks more like the storms were kind of hit and miss in Versant's coverage area, or are just starting to move in versus the ones that came in. Let me just send our producer a message too so that he can follow up on some of that. Sam Rogers, too, is in Bangor right now. He said lightning spotted in the distance, and they are waiting for the storm to cross through Bangor. So here's the line of storms if you want to see it zoomed out a little bit. Let me fill in the radar. That's a pretty intense line of storms that's passing through. There's a couple of breaks in the actual warned areas, but no matter where you are along this line of showers and storms, I would expect strong wind gusts, some hail, and certainly some heavy rain. The silver lining to all of this, of course, is that we do desperately need the rain, so that's very beneficial, but certainly not the way that I would like the rain to come in. Just so you all are aware, we are going to be making a photo gallery of all the hail pictures that come into on our website. So again, if you want to send those in, only if you can safely take them, send them into the Near Me section of our app. It's a great way to get everything in to us. It falls right in our hands. We can forward things to the National Weather Service and keep them in the loop too. Not to mention, we like to show some of these on air, and I can tell you that even though we don't have a 6 p.m. newscast, I'll certainly be sharing at least a few of them at 11. Good news is the severe thunderstorm warning for Somerset County has been canceled since the storm has moved out, but we still see significant areas underneath this warning. And again, we had a few strong wind reports so far out of this. I would not at all be surprised if we started hearing reports of trees down or branches down, things like that. And that would also explain why CMP is starting to report a few outages. Going to double check some radar data here. In case anybody's wondering what I'm doing, I've got a second computer set up to my left, and it has like 4 panels of radar on it. And I can look at different variables all at the same time, so it's helpful in that way. Plus, a lot of people like to see the line of storms coming through. Some people are interested in seeing the velocity data, but that seems to certainly affect meteorologists a little bit more. I'm still interested in this cell up here. Let's switch back over to the rotation and see if we have any rotation. Yeah, I'm still not picking much up at this point. It seems that the story is more along just stronger wind gusts in general. Could be gusts of about 40 miles an hour on this storm that's moving across I-95 between mile marker about 220 and 240 or 250. Oops. Oops. All right. Yeah, you'll notice the southern end of this line of storms here as it moves to the Penobscot Bay. There it is. I've been waiting for that warning to get pushed. So that's going to include Camden up to Belfast, all the way up to Penobscot Bay, basically. If you know people, again, who are out boating, even if they left from like Vinyl Haven or Deer Isle, if you know anybody that's in the waters at the mouth of the Penobscot, it is certainly worth letting them know that there is a mean line of storms heading their way. With threats of hail up to an inch, wind gusts to about 60 miles an hour. Again, about 4,500 people or so reporting power outages in Kennebec County from CMP. And I'm watching those numbers too to see if they are going to increase. these storms are moving into an environment that's favorable for them to maintain their strength. Sometimes when we see storms move into Maine, they kind of fall apart and look a little less impressive by the time they get here, just because there's more influence from the marine layer. I'm very interested in this storm right here. See where you see these pinks on the radar? Looks like there could be a bit of hail falling there too. And again, this is going to cross the I-95 corridor. If you know anybody who is out enjoying some time in Chester on the lakes along Route 6 here, I'm trying to think of names: Egg Pond, Caribou Pond, and Long Pond. Those are people that are going to need to get inside. Plus, we've got some stronger storms a little farther north. And the interesting thing to me here is that the National Weather Service is still tagging this storm near Island Falls as tornado possible. It's moving into an area that's not very populated, which is good news, and I don't see quite as much rotation, but I'm intrigued to see what happens as it runs into this environment, because if there's a little bit more wind coming out of the south, it may have just enough rotation to maintain its strength or strengthen even a little bit more. I'll zoom back out just so everybody can see what's happening on a larger scale and see what the National Weather Service has been saying. All right, I don't see any more reports coming in through NWS. Heavy downpour in Hollowell at 3:20 p.m., or at 3:35 p.m. rather. Debbie just let me know that it's getting dark in Hamden. Thunder's almost here, and you can hear it in the distance. So I'm just trying to read through some of the comments and figure out exactly who sees what, because again, that's helpful to me. 208 comments, not bad. Power's out in Waterville. Wind is picking up in Belfast. Yeah, those storms are knocking on the door in Belfast. Thunder in Hamden. Sun is back in Augusta. So once these storms roll through, I don't know that we're going to see much else. The storms that are currently moving through Franklin County really are not that impressive. And again, they just don't have the moisture to maintain themselves that well. Thundering in Bangor. Reporting some dark clouds in Hancock. We've got rain, thunder, and lightning reported in Enfield. Richard said it's sunny in Fort Myers. Yeah. Enjoy the Florida warmth. It's warm in Florida today. Heavy rain, thunder, lightning in Medford. Sunny in Waldoboro. Yeah, Waldoboro is like right on the cusp of all of this. I'm not sure that much will happen. Even a little farther south, I don't think we're going to see much along the coastline, at least. And a lot of that, again, just goes back to the marine layer that we have been watching. There's a second cell that's trying to pop on the other side of Augusta right now, too. All right, we're up to almost 10,000 outages being reported. Part of the problem with these storms rolling through in the summer is that all the trees are in full leaf. So when you have these thunderstorms come through, if they have wind gusts of 45 to 50 miles an hour, sometimes that's enough to take down tree branches when they're in full leaf like this. And that's part of the reason why we tend to see more damage, of course, during the summer versus during the winter. In the winter, we see wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour pretty regularly, actually, especially on whenever we get a nor'easter that comes through, or on the backside of cold fronts, things tend to get pretty gusty. But we don't have to worry about the trees quite as much in the winter because the ground is frozen and because all of the trees do not have any leaves. I wasn't expecting quite as many outages as being reported now, though, and I imagine those are just going to keep trickling in, especially as these storms move into more populated areas. I'm thinking that we're going to see this warning here get expanded to include Washington County. This storm is headed toward Topsfield, and of course the lakes area here too will have to be watched. Quick refresher for everybody watching, because I see this question pop up sometimes. What's the difference between a watch and a warning? We did not have a severe thunderstorm watch enacted today. We expected severe warned storms to be fewer and further between, so there was no watch. But generally it means that a watch will favor the conditions for a severe storm. So conditions are there, the ingredients are there. Think of this as like if you're getting ready to make a pizza. You've got the dough, you've got the sauce, you've got the cheese. That would be your pizza watch. Pizza warning would mean the pizza's coming out of the oven and you've got your pizza. So what the severe thunderstorm warning means here is that it's time to take cover. Severe storms are occurring or imminent. And again, that could be for hail or wind. And then should we see enough rotation, the National Weather Service would issue a tornado warning, which would, again, be for a tornado. But I don't think that's likely today. One of the other ingredients that we look for, let me see if I can show that well, for storm organization, that is. Let's see if this will, yeah, you can see it a bit. I'm going to pause the radar for a second. We're looking at velocity data, so this is the wind data from the radar that the radar is sensing. In this area here that's crossing 95, we've got kind of gray, maybe a couple of red pixels mixed in an area that's otherwise green. And what this actually is broad rotation, which says that this is a mature, organized thunderstorm. When you see a broad area of rotation like this, that means that it's more likely to produce hail, or it's more likely to bring strong wind gusts with it as it rolls on through. And this is crossing I-95 right now, and it will keep on moving to the east. It's moving east pretty quickly. A lot of these storms are moving pretty quickly. Sounds like there was blue skies are back in Exeter. We just had a good storm in Dixmont. Any damage reported in Dexter, Dover, Foxcroft? I haven't heard anything from that area. Downpour and windy in Brunswick. Hail, rain, and thunder came out in Winthrop, but it's dark and getting louder again. Yeah, that's the storm that I've been watching as it starts to pop back up on the other side of Augusta. We can head back over the radar so you can see what's going on. I also want to mention something because I don't think it's communicated clearly enough, but all of these lightning bolts that you see here are lightning strikes that come into our system. So this doesn't just mean that there was lightning observed in the cloud. This is lightning that actually made it from the cloud to the ground. That storm that we were tracking near Patton has now crossed Route 2 and is headed towards 2A. Yeah, if you're in Winthrop right now, you had that first storm come through and there's a second one. Belgrade Lakes area, same thing. If you know people who are out on the lakes right now, just let them know that there's another thunderstorm on the way. And then we'll be watching this broken line of storms that's about to cross the 201 corridor. I'm really not that impressed by these ones. I do think that they're still going to be a bit gusty as they roll through with a little bit of thunder and some heavy rain, but they're not nearly as strong as the ones that are feeding off of this moisture that's moving up through central Maine and basically up the Penobscot Valley. If you're in Belfast right now, you've got some thunder knocking on your doorstep. We're starting to see more lightning strikes as this storm approaches the Penobscot Bay too. All right, and going to just zoom out a little bit so people can follow along here. But anybody who is watching this, who has pictures of hail, tree damage, things like that, near me section of our app, great way to share your photos and videos with us, because this gets into our hands, but we can easily send this into the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service needs verification on things like these, on events like this. So anything that you can send in is helpful. Plus, we like to share these, of course, on air, but make sure you can safely take it. Take a look at this video from Marie in Winthrop. This is hail video. I mean, those are just, looks to be about pea size, maybe a little bit larger, just no surprise to anybody who is in tune with gardening or farming, though, that hail is not what you want to see, especially when you desperately need the rain. I spoke about this earlier, but for anybody who may have just joined, we were at a bit of an increased risk for hail today, which is something that doesn't happen all that often in Maine. All right, we'll see if this warning gets expanded to include Amity and the Route 1 corridor before these storms actually cross the border. What was interesting about this entire setup is that Canada's version of the National Weather Service actually issued a severe thunderstorm watch for the entire Maine border. So all of New Brunswick surrounding Maine, which I found interesting that we didn't have the same watch in place. And just watching the radar, it looks like some of these storms that are moving through Maine were actually stronger than what Canada saw. Curious to see what this storm's going to do again as it approaches parts of the Penobscot. Seems to be holding together, though, toward Belfast. Basselborough had a heavy downpour and one big gust of wind with it. Trish and Danforth sees and hears it. No, not much going on in the Lewiston-Auburn area. I know that this is very heavily focused on central and eastern Maine, but that's where the weather's ongoing. If you're in southwestern Maine right now, you are probably just soaking up some sunshine. Things are still quiet. I don't really anticipate that to change much either. Still at almost 10,000 outages according to CMP. Not much being reported for Versant right now. But again, a lot of this is just because the storms are moving into Versant's area and have already moved through CMP's coverage area. Wow, check out this picture of lightning. This was sent in from Tony in Orlando, and this is another reason why Near Me is great, because these are pictures that are being sent in real time. So this is something that somebody took. Sorry, what did I say? It's in Orland. I think I said Orlando. It's all right. These are pictures that people have taken since this Facebook Live started and are now sending in to us to show you, which is really, really cool. And again, this is Orland, Maine, not Orlando, Florida. Although, if you're in Orlando, Florida, you probably see something like this pretty regularly. Here's the latest. Again, a lot of these storms that are moving through are kind of on the lower end of the severe scale. Sometimes we can see wind gusts, of 65, 70 miles an hour with hail approaching an inch or an inch and a half in diameter. But what we've got now is hail right around an inch with winds of about 60 miles an hour. So that's what the stronger gusts are as they move in. This is a pretty mean line of storms. I have to say I'm impressed. I did not expect this to come across as put together as it has, as organized as it has. Jess and I were talking yesterday when I was in, and it looked almost like we were going to have a more organized line in the morning a break of sunshine, which gives us the energy for these storms, and then things were going to kind of break apart as they move through later, and these storms are going to be more isolated in nature versus like an actual line of severe thunderstorms. But take a look at some of these lightning strikes. They're starting to happen a little bit further out ahead of the storm. There it is. I've been waiting for this warning to come out too. And because of the little bit of rotation here, the National Weather Service has still tagged this as tornado possible. So we're watching this cell very closely. It's moving across 2A shortly, and eventually will cross Route 1 near Orient, Maine, before moving over the border and into Canada. This is the cell that I'm currently most interested in, simply because it's one of the more organized ones and is also showing some signs of rotation still. In fact, you can actually probably see it a little more clearly now on the velocity data. We're going to show this quickly, and then we've got another hail picture to show. Yeah, so this wind is moving toward the radar, and this is moving away from the radar. The rotation's a bit broad for something like a tornado, but should this tighten up a little bit, we call that a velocity couplet. When you have outgoing or outbound winds right next to inbound winds, if you have winds moving in the opposite direction very closely like that, we call that a velocity couplet. And it's one of the things that we use to see if a storm is capable of producing a tornado. And should it rotate a little bit more, this could potentially become tornado warned. Again, that's what this tag is from the National Weather Service, where it says tornado possible. This is mostly for Aroostook County at this point. If you know anybody in the county, especially people who are in Orient, if you're in Danforth or know people there, just make sure that they're aware of this coming in. There's a lot of lightning associated with this too that's starting to make it to the ground. Give me 1 second here. Let's head back into the National Weather Service chat and see what's going on. For anybody who's wondering what that means, we have this line of communication that allows us to basically be in constant contact with the National Weather Service, so that we can talk a little bit about what the storms are doing with them, what their thoughts are, and sometimes they can give us a little bit of a warning, so to speak, that they are about to issue a warning. Ooh, we also got a report out of Madawaska of hail of about a $50 size, so 1.25 inches or so in diameter. Take a look at this hail picture from Michael. There wasn't a location on this one, but pretty impressive nonetheless. I'm very intrigued by this cell. This is very interesting. The evolution of this storm has been rather interesting. This is moving toward the northern end of Grand Lake on the Maine-Canadian border. And we still have this line of severe thunderstorm warnings that stretches all the way down the I-95 corridor to Bangor, and now the Penobscot Bay. And notice that these storms are kind of fizzling out a little bit more as they move closer to the influence of that marine air. I said yesterday that the best chance for severe weather down east would mostly be inland and away from the coastline, and I still think that's fair, especially this time of year where the water down east really hasn't warmed up much yet. We tend to see those warmer water temps like late July into August. This cell has a decent structure to it. If you're in Orient, Maine, if you're on the northern edge of Grand Lake here, or if you're crossing, if you know anybody who's traveling this section of Route 1 from Holton to Danforth, or even to Topsfield, just let them know that this is probably going to be a pretty mean storm as it passes. Sometimes when you have a line of storms like this, on either end you have something called a bookend vortice, a vortex, and that is actually kind of what we're watching here. It can enhance rotation a little bit locally. Another interesting thing to note is the little break in the storms between Lincoln and Greenbush. There's a lot of lightning moving toward Greenbush right now, though. And again, all of these strikes that you see, so let's zoom in close to Bangor here. We have commenting from Hamden and Herman earlier, but all of these lightning strikes that you see that are moving toward downtown Bangor, these are strikes that have made it to the ground. This is not just lightning that's been like observed in a cloud. These are registered strikes to the ground, and all of this is just moving to the east. Bangor, Brewer, Eddington need to watch out, especially since a lot of these strikes are actually hitting the ground and reaching the ground. I'm going to zoom back out. We can do an approximate timing here too. Let me zoom out for a sec. So here's what you have to look for. These timings again are approximate, but about 4:25 Orono, about 4:35 Castine, and it doesn't quite make it to Ellsworth until almost 5 p.m. But this is what we're looking at for timing on these cells, but we have other cells to talk about too. We'll move back up. I'm going to highlight just this single cell here because this is pretty intense. But we're looking at watching it cross through Orient around 4:50. So this is going to cross Route 1 at 4:50. And again, this is arguably the most organized of everything that's on right now. And then we've got one last thing to chart out here timing-wise. And that's this line of storms. About 4:27 Lee, 4:39 Carroll, Maine, 4:53 we're looking at Lakeville. And that's the line of storms that's moving through Wynne and Lincoln right now. And it's basically going to track right down Route 6. And I think that these are the ones that are not quite as organized as they were. They look to be weakening slightly, but still capable certainly of producing heavy rain and hail, as well as strong wind gusts. I'll have to reach out to my people in Lincoln and see if anything happened. Working on the weekends, you kind of one-man band this, so sorry if there's some long pauses, but yeah, that line of storms is moving right through Bangor. I had a couple people tweet at me earlier today rooting for some thunder in Bangor. Looks like they got their wish. Interesting. Pouring in Lincoln, rain in downtown Bangor with wind. Oh, we got another picture. Let me see who this one's from. David in Howland. That's that's pretty bad. I mean, hail is one of those things that there's a very, very fine line between it's not really a huge deal to, wow, this is not great. And I'm still intrigued by this cell here. I'm watching it very closely. There are certainly signals for rotation. And again, if this becomes tornado warned, I am going to just hop on air to warn everybody what's going on. This is certainly the most organized cell out of this entire line. Let's head back south and talk about what's going on along the Penobscot Bay. These showers haven't quite made it to Lincolnville, and we've got a secondary storm that's now past Winthrop and moving right toward Augusta again. It's going to cross 201. And then behind all of this, we have just some run-of-the-mill showers and storms. These ones are really not that impressive. What you see in Coos County, New Hampshire right now, and anything that tracks along this part of Route 2 in Maine, so in western Maine, from like Berlin, New Hampshire to Bethel and Rumford and Weld, really not anything that I think we have to worry about, just because a lot of the energy that was in the air has since been tapped into by these other storms. There's a lot of lightning along 168 from Mattawamkeag down through Lee. When thunder roars, go indoors. It's the best thing you can do. And if you can safely take pictures of anything that's going on or video, you can send them in right to us on the Near Me section of our app. I saw that we had that linked in the comments on the Facebook Live, so that should make it a little more accessible, a little bit easier to find. Not to mention that that page will bring you basically right through a how-to sheet on how to use it. Although I do think it's pretty user-friendly. Pictures, videos, and as always, if you can take the videos and pictures with your phone horizontally, it's the best way to do it, because then we can put it right into the system, get it on air, and share what you saw in your backyard with everybody. Send stuff into the National Weather Service, let them know what actually happened on ground level as these storms rolled on through, and ultimately I think it's just a great tool to have at our disposal. Switch over to velocity data. I'm really intrigued by this storm here. It's a little tougher to tell here, but these reds and greens co-located next to each other just signify that there is rotation. This is still pretty broad rotation, so not exactly what you'd expect to see from like a tornadic signature on the radar, but the storm itself is organized. And I was data sampling again some of these pixels, and it looks like there's winds of about 20 to 30 miles an hour. 35 maybe. Certainly strong enough to cause some issues, just judging by the fact that we've got outages being reported. Roll back over here. CMP still reporting just over 10,000 outages. Versant still not reporting much at all. The area that Versant does show outages is near Dover, Foxcroft, and Atkinson, and Charleston, like kind of in between that triangle, but not many outages at all are being reported. But again, these storms are moving into Versant's coverage area, so it is certainly possible that we will see those numbers climb a little bit more. Heavy rain in Lincoln. I see a couple people asking about Franklin County. There's a couple of showers in Franklin County, but I really don't think they're going to pack a punch like this. The air is just so much drier after that first line of storms rolled through, and these are mostly on the edge of the moisture. Sun back out in Medford. All right. Still showing some signatures of broad rotation in that storm right over Lee, too. So it's a little bit more organized. Let's jump back over here. Zoom back out a little bit so you can see what's going on. Had a few questions about Washington County. This hasn't actually made it to Washington County yet. The first spot to see anything in Washington County is going to be the Topsfield and Danforth areas, and basically along Route 6. So that's where we'll see our first threat for showers and thunderstorms in Washington County. A lot of lightning. Penobscot Bay too. Stockton Springs up to Bucksport. Better keep an eye out, because it's a lot of lightning that's making it to the ground. Verona Island. Here's another thunderstorm that's popped over Augusta. This is not severe. And again, what you see ongoing in western Maine right now is likely not going to be severe. Even these little cells that are starting to drift into northern New Hampshire, I don't think that we need to worry too much about those at all, just because the environment that they're in, there's no more real energy and moisture for them to use. They simply don't have the ingredients that the earlier storms had, and that's part of the reason why these earlier storms were able to strengthen so much. Just combing through some more data. See if anything's new, anything's changed. Any other signatures I gotta watch out for? Okay, let's start fresh for anybody who's just joining us. We've got some severe warned storms moving through. They're moving from west to east, heading about due east now. Most of these have moved through parts of Piscataquis County, parts of Kennebec County. They're now in Penobscot County, heading into Hancock, Washington, and Aroostook County. So that's what we need to watch. Those are really the only areas that are left, I think, that we could potentially see some severe weather, because once this line is wrapped up, anything that forms behind it will likely not be strong to severe, simply because the ingredients have already been used up. So we're going to zoom back in here along Coastal 1A from Bangor to Ellsworth, I-95 in Bangor. Heavy rain, some lightning, those storms starting to dissipate maybe just a little bit as they move into Clifton. North from Greenbush to Lincoln, we've got quite a bit of lightning actually reaching the ground. That's going to include sections of I-95 and Route 2. And all of that, again, is moving east and will move through Great Pond before making its way into Washington County. If we head a little farther north, we still have this one lone cell that's been trying to show a little bit more organization, a little bit more rotation, that is moving right toward Orient. And I expect that that is the storm that will likely be the one to watch, just because it seems to be a little bit more independent of this line. And if it ends up with just a little bit more rotation, it could potentially have enough rotation to warrant a tornado warning. That's what this tag here that you see, it says threat tornado possible. Basically, that's the National Weather Service telling us to watch out for rotation. Should any of these cells have the potential to actually drop a tornado, it would be this one. We're going to stick with this for a little while longer, just because I think that we've got a solid amount of people participating in the comments, and it's actually very helpful to keep up with that and see what our eyes on the ground see. I did notice a comment that somebody said that these storms always fizzle before they make it there, but I didn't see a location mentioned. There's a couple things that we deal with in Maine. One is that storms coming down off the mountains sometimes can't hold together, and that's because as they actually physically descend in elevation, the air compacts, warms up, dries out, so sometimes that can really hinder the strength of a storm. And all of these storms, of course, were coming down from the northwest and coming down the mountains like that. The other thing that we deal with is a solid marine layer, especially down east. All it takes is some wind off the south to move that cool, stable ocean air inland a bit, and that can usually thwart the threat for some of these storms. And that's why I think you're struggling to see anything actually fire south of Belfast. It looks like maybe we'll get some showers in Lincolnville and on the edge of Camden too, but once you get into like Rockland, you're not going to see much. Waldoboro's not seen anything. We had one lone shower make it to Brunswick, but even that broke apart before it even made it to Wisconsin and Booth Bay. If you were in Bristol, you probably didn't even know that there was much going on except for a couple of clouds. We've got another Near Me submission coming momentarily from Paul in Big Indian Pond. So while that gets queued up, I'm going to just scoot back over here. Double check what's going on. Somebody commented from South China, is the worst over? Yes, it looks like the worst is over in South China. There still could be a shower or storm that pops, but wow, take a look at this video from Big Indian Pond. We've got rain, looks like there might be some hail mixed in there, and you can really see just how strong the wind gusts are. But notice, as we talked about earlier in this Facebook Live, they're moving in a uniform direction. So straight line winds is really the bigger issue with a lot of this. There's only one cell, that one lone cell that actually shows signs of rotation. Okay, so showers and thunderstorms have now passed through Bangor. Things are looking a little bit better in Bangor. Orono, things are moving through as we speak. Old Town, and these are all en route to Ellsworth. Still watching this little cell on the end of the line that's now moving through Searsmont and toward Camden. Let's see. I will say that this rain is very, very good for the fact that we are slowly expanding that drought area. Seems like that's what a lot of the comments are. Brenda asked if any more is coming tonight. Again, there's a few more showers and storms, but I don't think that there's going to be anything nearly as significant as this later on today. I will just point your attention to this warning from the National Weather Service that the hail size forecast is about 0.88 inches, so a little bit less than quarter size hail, more like nickel size hail for that one warning. So that's including Waldo County there. And it looks like that original end of the line that was over Belfast is actually starting to break apart a bit, and there's the secondary cell that's formed. And there's one more that's tracking through Augusta, and then things after that are pretty much going to wrap up, I think. Here's a quick look at what's going on in western Maine, because I've seen a few questions about it. Jay, Farmington, Chesterville, that area, some light rain, really no big deal. Maybe a couple rumbles of thunder with that. If you're in Rangeley, you had some rain, really no big deal. there either. And then up US Route 3 to the very northern tip of New Hampshire, Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, up north in Coos County. That's where there's still just a little bit of lightning and thunder actually reaching the ground. Looks like we've got another near-me submission coming up. Heavy downpour from Julie in Brewer. Take a look at that. Wow. I'm sure that everybody's lawn and plants and trees are very happy about this rain. Ideally, if we could get some of this rain without the threat for severe weather, it would be even better. Unfortunately, I think that even when we bring back the rain into the forecast, there's going to be a threat for severe weather. Yeah, this cell still isn't quite as organized as you tend to see when it comes to something that can actually produce a tornado. But it certainly is a strong thunderstorm. Quite a bit of wind out ahead of it now, too. Notice the National Weather Service has actually issued a new warning for it as it crosses Route 1 through Orion to Weston. Danforth is not included in this, but I suspect that we will see this area of thunderstorms that's moving through Lee get warned again as it keeps tracking down Route 6 to Topsfield. The line is kind of fizzling as it actually passed through Bangor. Take a look near Ellsworth on the map and down Route 1A. It's not quite as robust as it was beforehand, but there's certainly still quite a bit of lightning reaching the ground, especially just north of the Penobscot Bay. And again, I think that this is pretty much going to be it for severe weather today. I don't think that we're going to have to deal with much more after this line passes through. Usually what happens in these scenarios is exactly what you see here, where like cooler, drier air starts to settle in a little bit behind this, rain-cooled air sometimes, and that tends to just knock out the energy that you have for strong to severe thunderstorms. I'm not saying that we can't see another rogue storm here or there. I just don't think it's actually going to reach severe limits. I think that most of that is going to be garden variety. You know, a few rumbles of thunder here or there, it rains for 5 or 10 minutes, and then moves on. AKA, not really as big of a deal as these are. There are still some showers and storms ongoing in the county right now too, but most of the stronger ones are over the border in Canada. All right. As these wrap up, I don't think that storm's going to go tornado warned, which is good news, but we can run through the forecast and chat a little bit about what's going on there. And I'll give everybody just kind of an idea, and then we'll put this on the website too. Just do this. Great. Okay. Just queuing up a couple graphics. Pull out the things that everybody wants to see, which is, of course, mostly what can I expect for later on tonight. I actually think it could be a pretty solid evening for a lot of us. All right, let's run through the forecast here, and then we can start to wrap up a little bit. And of course, I'll still be available on social media if you have any questions or anything like that, and I will be more than happy to answer them and help you out a bit. Okay, I think we should be good here. We'll start with a live look over the Brownville webcam. Sometimes this one takes a second to load in, so bear with me. I'm not sure which way this faces, but I was curious to see if you could actually see any of the showers and thunderstorms. Sometimes you can see like the tops of the clouds, not much going on. Sebec Lake similar, some darker clouds in Sebec Lake. Now, this actually would have been great to show when the storm was over Dover Foxcroft. Highs reached for a lot of us much warmer than I anticipated today. And the reason for that is simply because I didn't expect the warm air to quite make it to us. Notice 87 in Sanford, 86 in Portland. I was thinking that we were going to top out close to 80 degrees, not the mid to upper 80s, just due to the fact that we were expecting lingering cloud cover through the morning hours, and then we were expecting this round of showers and storms. So here's your showers and thunderstorms still passing on through. Temperatures falling, especially behind the storms. Just take a look at, let's see if we can loop this for the last 3 hours. Take a look at Waterville. It goes from 80 to 64. Rangeley, 73 to 63. Bangor goes from 76 down to the 60s. So that's that cooler air that I was talking about. Once that moves in, it's really tough to keep those strong to severe thunderstorms going, and I just don't think that we're going to see much beyond this. In fact, tonight, we should see things clear out. By 7 o'clock, just about wrapped up. 8 p.m., nothing else to even talk about at that point in time. Tonight, partly to mostly clear skies, temperatures inland dropping into the 50s, coast going to stay in the 60s, much milder where that cloud cover lingers. 7 a.m. tomorrow, we warm things up pretty quickly. I think that tomorrow's going to be a fairly warm day, expecting widespread high temperatures in the 80s. In the afternoon, there could be maybe a stray shower. No thunderstorms expected tomorrow. And I'm expecting at least increasing cloud cover across northern Maine, where there's just a little bit more cold air above our heads. So we should end up with those puffy, fair weather cumulus clouds that you tend to see. And then after that, the big story changes to what happens on Monday and Tuesday. And the reason for that is because we're going to be tracking the remnants of what was forecast to become Claudette. So here's a look at Sunday. We've got that, great for Father's Day, some sunshine, not much to talk about. Cold front has moved well beyond us. But then as we get into Monday, it gets a little bit more interesting, and the reason for that is because we're going to see that remnant tropical moisture start to move up the eastern seaboard. So that cold front that you see across the Midwest on Monday interacts with that tropical moisture and could end up with maybe some showers or thunderstorms here to end off, or to start off the week, rather. I think that we have a threat for some strong to severe thunderstorms. Oh, we just got a tornado warning. I have to go live on air right now. Let me just call down to our master control and make sure that we're all on the same page with this. Hey, Alex, can you run down and tell Sarah I need to go on air right now, please? Yep. Thank you. Stick with us.
On air or Facebook?
On air.
Okay.
WCSH, please. Let me grab my clicker. Thanks, Luke.
Is there a tornado?
Yes. Well, a warning. Am I good to go? Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Check check. Am I on? We good? WCSH. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Mike Slifer. This just in, a tornado warning has been issued for parts of Knox and Waldo counties, including the Washington area. This is headed toward Hope and eventually toward Lincolnville and the Penobscot Bay. This is radar indicated, but if you are under this warning, seek shelter immediately. Best places to go: interior rooms with no windows, staircases, bathrooms, or the basement. Get to the lowest level of your house. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between here and the computers to try to keep everybody updated and tell you a little bit about what I'm looking for with this storm. The first and foremost, though, I do want to mention again, there's a tornado warning that's been issued. It is radar indicated, so we've not actually seen or heard reports of a funnel cloud on the ground, but it looks like there's some tight rotation on the radar, and this again is moving through parts of Knox and Waldo County. So if you're on the mid-coast heading toward Lincolnville and Northport, right along Route 1, seek shelter immediately. There's a severe thunderstorm warning surrounding this tornado warning. I'm going to head on over to the computer, start looking through some of the data, and let you know what we see. So there's a couple things that we're going to look for here. The first thing, of course, is going to be rotation. When you have a tornado warning issued and it's radar indicated, there's always a strong signature for rotation, and that's what we're going to look for right now. So you can join me while I do some meteorology, and that's exactly what we see here. This is a really, really strong signature, actually. Take a look at this. I'm going to pause it here. So see these pixels? It's tough to see where some of the red pixels actually blend in with the green pixels, but these red pixels right here, co-located right next to these green and even light blue pixels, are actually a signature for rotation. So that's what we look for in these situations. What it means is the red pixels are moving away from the radar, so these are going like this. And we've got green pixels moving toward the radar. This is located right over Appleton, Maine 105, and moving toward Hope right now. And we do see a signature for rotation with this storm. And the other thing that we're going to look at here is something that sometimes when you have storms like this, if they start to pick up debris, you can actually pick them out. And I don't see that very clearly here right now, which is a great sign. I'm going to go back over to the radar and zoom in very close so that you can see where you are. All right, this is tracking right toward Maine 105, Maine 235, tracking through Appleton, right toward Hope. A tornado warning has been issued for parts of Knox and Waldo counties. I do apologize for covering golf if anybody was watching that, but this is something that we need to get out to everybody involved. This is going to keep moving to the east here and eventually make its way toward Route 1 along the mid-coast. Counties affected right now: Knox and Waldo. This tornado warning is going to go until 5:15. It looks like there's some bigger hail mixed in with this storm too. Hail size about 1.25 inches in diameter, which is enough to cause damage. If you are under this warning, seek shelter immediately. We're going to go over where to best do that, the safest places to seek shelter. And I want to mention something here too. Don't feel silly if you grab a helmet or anything like that to try to protect your head. That's the most important thing you can do. A few months ago, I shared a selfie on social media, actually, of me in the shower with a helmet on, because that is my safe place, my safe space when it comes to strong storms. Just typing up a quick message here. All right. Make sure that this gets out everywhere. Let's go to our topics here. Let's talk about tornado safe places. I like this graphic a lot. Anybody who is underneath the warning should seek shelter immediately. This is a great way to view it. You want to be somewhere that's away from windows, interior things. Hallways, stairways, closets, and bathrooms, great spots to be. You don't want to be in the garage. You don't want to be near the living room because everybody, of course, always has big windows in their living room, things like that. Bedroom, not a great spot to be. And you certainly don't want to be outside. So when you are under things like a severe thunderstorm warning, or in this case, a tornado warning, you need to get indoors and try to stay away from windows. This is the best place to be: stairs, hallway, closet, or a bathroom, interior areas that are away from windows And of course, if you have a basement, not a bad spot to be either. We recommend grabbing anything you can to protect your head. Some people like to use pillows. Some people talk about using a helmet. Anything that can protect your head is a good way to go. Let me double check what the National Weather Service is saying on this too. Yeah, this is moving east at 25 miles an hour. Let me bring the radar back up. And we're going to stick with this until it dissipates. Notice that the National Weather Service has actually issued a secondary warning for the systems that move towards Hope. Current trajectory has it on pace to actually make it toward Camden. So if you know somebody who's in Camden, just make sure that they are aware of this. Timing is approximate, but could be in the Camden region by about 5:11. It's moving through Hope within the next few minutes, most likely, before it makes its way across and toward coastal Route 1 between Rockport and Lincolnville, which of course means that Camden is right in the middle of that. Make sure you seek shelter immediately with this. All right, just catching up on a couple of things here. Again, this is a tornado warning that's been issued for Knox and Waldo counties. It is radar indicated, but is actually showing some classic signatures that we tend to look for tornadic storms that we don't tend to see in Maine very often. You can still pick out very clearly the velocity data here, where that low-level rotation is. And what we have here, I've explained this and I will again, these areas right here, we've got green pixels and red pixels. Red pixels are moving away from the radar, and the green pixels are moving toward the radar. And so what you end up with is this very tight area of rotation, and this is one of the things that we look for when it comes to tornadoes, or at least the possibility of a tornado in a thunderstorm. Again, this is radar indicated. It is not anything that has been confirmed to be on the ground, but I am watching it very, very closely. And we will continue, of course, to provide you updates right here. This is eventually going to move into the Penobscot Bay. If anybody was watching the Facebook Live that I had on beforehand, too, you already know that I said this, but I'm going to say it again. If you know anybody that is currently out on the Penobscot Bay and trying to enjoy what was a nice summer day until these storms fired up, certainly let them know that there is a tornado warned storm approaching very rapidly. And that nude scan shows that the rotation has moved past Maine 135, past Appleton, moving through Hope as we speak. If you are underneath this warning, a lot of people get alerts to their phones now, and that comes straight from the National Weather Service. If you got a buzz on your phone that said something along the lines of tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. That's the best thing you could do. Basements, interior sections away from windows. A couple of tornado stats is Maine usually averages a couple tornadoes confirmed each year. We haven't had any so far this year. We're still kind of early in the severe weather season though. We did have one last year and that happened in July around Sebago. This is the tornado warning that's ongoing right now. I tracked this out. It's set to cross coastal US 1 between Camden and Lincolnville right around 5:10 or so, maybe a little bit sooner, since this storm does look like it's moving pretty quickly. We're going to keep you, of course, updated until this warning expires. If you know anybody in this area, make sure you've been in contact with them. And again, anybody that's on the Penobscot Bay right now, let them know that there is a nasty storm headed their way. We'll be tracking this until it starts to break apart a little bit more. These newer scans aren't quite as organized with it, which is actually a pretty good sign. So hopefully we can see that trend continue. Sometimes as these storms move out over the water too, they'll actually run into that marine air and not be able to hold together quite as well. There we go. That's the radar scan I was looking for. Again, this is radar indicated. So far, we've not heard any reports of an actual funnel cloud on the ground, but this storm is certainly capable of producing a tornado and hail up to about a $half size. I'm expecting to hear at least some damage in this area, because even if this hasn't actually gone tornadic, it's still a nasty thunderstorm and will likely produce some damage as it moves. Affected areas moving through Hope as we speak. Maine 173 included under this, Maine 52, and it's headed right toward Camden and Lincolnville, moving pretty quickly as it does so. These times are approximate, but here's what we're looking at. All right, we just got another update from the National Weather Service. Still no word on the possible tornado, but there's a strong updraft in this storm and quite a bit of rotation. My guess here is that we're probably going to see some pretty significant hail underneath this too, especially where you've got those pinks appearing on the radar, so just north of Hope. Youngtown, this is going to move through at about 5:05, and then it splits between Camden and Lincolnville right around 5:10 or 5:15, somewhere in that region. If you are underneath this tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. Best thing to do, get to the lowest level of your building or home. Stay away from windows or doors. And here's what I was saying earlier today too. You're going to want to use pillows, blankets, helmets, anything for protection. Protect your body, but especially protect your head. This is what we're going to be watching with this storm as it passes. See if we can get any rotation tracks here too. Usually this radar algorithm does a pretty decent job at picking out where the rotation tracks have been. And that's exactly what you see here. Take a look. It started near Somerville, passed through Washington. Appleton is where we saw stronger rotation, and it's continuing on through Hope. And it will eventually cross 173 and 52 there and make its way between Camden and Lincolnville. So this is going to cross right through coastal US 1. That's pretty mean. It's a pretty nasty cell. Just getting some updates from the National Weather Service here. Some pretty intense inflow on this too. So let me point out a couple of things here as the radar keeps looping. If you are underneath this tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. Lowest level of your home or building. Grab a helmet, pillows, blankets, whatever for protection. Interior areas, if you don't have a basement, will also do. Just make sure you stay away from windows. But you need to be inside. You need to seek shelter. See this notch right here? Watch as it loops back through. This notch right here is something we call an inflow notch. And what that means is there's actually wind that's getting wrapped up around and helping with that rotation. So this storm is maintaining its rotation as it moves closer and closer to the coastline. The National Weather Service is currently pondering if they're going to extend this warning to the coastline. But given the fact that this storm has maintained its rotation and strength, I would not at all be surprised if we actually saw this tornado warning get extended all the way to the Penobscot Bay. If you know anybody who is out boating off the coast of Camden, Lincolnville, Rockland, or Rockport, let them know that there is a strong thunderstorm that could possibly produce a tornado heading toward them. Again, we haven't confirmed a funnel cloud on the ground with this, so there's no confirmed tornado on the ground. This is all radar indicated, but this thunderstorm certainly has the characteristics that we look for when it comes to a tornadic storm. And also, I think that this is probably going to drop some large hail with it as it moves on through too. We'll be keeping you updated right here until this warning expires. I don't plan on going anywhere, especially as it moves toward a more populated area right along the coastline. I've got a phone call coming in. 1 second. All right, don't need to take that. I'm going to shift the radar just slightly here so you can get a better idea of the way it's moving. It's actually taking a more due east track toward Lincolnville and not quite toward Camden, but still slated to move between Lincoln and Camdenville along US Route 1. at about 5:15. All right, so we did get an extension on that warning, which is not a surprise given the fact that this is still it shows the signs of rotation and maintaining rotation. Just give me a second and take a quick sip of water here. Couple of spots to mention. I know Lincolnville has a town beach. I've been there before. If you're on the beach in Lincolnville, you got to get off the beach. If you know anybody that's on the beach in Lincolnville, tell them to head inside, seek shelter immediately. This tornado warning has been expanded and includes Lincolnville and Camden. A lot of people like to boat off the coastline there in the Penobscot Bay. If you know anyone on a boat, let them know that there is a storm that is capable of producing a tornado. Hail size has been upped to 1.75 inches in diameter. It's moving due east right now. Lobster Pond, another spot where people tend to hang out. Make sure that they are warned by this. The good thing is that a lot of people will get a notification on their phone telling them to seek shelter immediately. But this is a really, really nasty thunderstorm and not something that we see very often in Maine at all, especially close to the coastline. Again, I'm expecting this to cross right across US Route 1 between Lincolnville and Camden, a fairly populated area too. So not something that we want to see. I'm going to show you what the storm winds look like and break down why we still think this is possible or has the ability to produce a tornado and why that tornado warning was expanded all the way to the coastline. It's moving east now at about 35 miles an hour. Another thing I want to mention here is that we still haven't received any reports of a funnel cloud on the ground. Wow. This is just a very strong signal that we don't tend to see here often. So see these pixels that are almost like bright orange, yellow? All these pixels in this area is actually wind that's being pushed out from the storm. And it's co-located in an area that has wind coming in. And that's where we're looking at the rotation on this storm. Hey, Todd.
You guys on?
We're on. Chief Meteorologist Todd Guttner joining me here today as we track this tornado warning. This tornado warned storm as it moves toward Lincolnville and Camden, about to cross US 1. Again, if you are underneath this warning, seek shelter immediately. If you know anybody that's on the beaches here, tell them to seek shelter immediately. Very popular beach day, especially as temperatures jumped into the 70s out ahead of this thing. Circulation still impressive with it too. And it looks like there could be some big hail falling momentarily. I'm expecting to hear some reports here of hail falling soon. Lobster Pond, Lincolnville beaches, Camden beaches. Make sure you get off the boats. You don't want to be in the path of this as it moves through. Seek shelter immediately. The latest scans on the radar still show that it's maintaining its rotation and strength as it crosses Maine 52 and heads toward US 1 between Lincolnville and Camden. So for anybody who's just tuning in, we have an active tornado warning right now. It includes parts of Knox and Waldo counties. Radar indicated, so we don't actually have confirmation that there's a tornado on the ground, but given the fact that this storm has had quite the history of producing quite a bit of rotation and certainly has the strength to maintain that rotation, make sure anybody that's underneath this warning seeks shelter immediately. And if you are underneath this warning, seek shelter immediately. We'll likely start to hear some reports of some pretty big hail from Lincolnville to Northport and along US 1 here. This storm is really strong, and you still see this inflow notch very clearly here, and that means that we are actually able to pick out where some of that wind is getting shoved back into the storm, helping assist that rotation and keep things going as it makes its way to the coastline. This is a pretty populated area. There's a lot of people around here. So we're certainly going to have to watch that as it keeps moving to the east. It's moving east right now at about 35 miles an hour.
No, we'll probably just tag team.
Notice that the severe thunderstorm warning has been expanded too. I did want to mention that. That's for the hail. The hail and the tornado are going to be two separate things here, but near this tornado warned storm, we could see hail size approaching about 1.75 inches in diameter, so bigger than $half hail. It's pretty significant in size and certainly capable of causing damage, just like the wind associated with this storm could be. Again, this is all moving east at about 35 miles an hour, expecting this to cross Route 1 between Lincolnville and Camden within the next 5 to 10 minutes. If you're underneath this severe warned storm, if you're underneath this tornado warned storm, you want to seek shelter. Lowest level of your house, best place to be. Interior rooms that don't have windows, so like closets, hallways, staircases, bathrooms, things like that. Also places that will be safe underneath this storm. Make sure you seek shelter. And again, if you know anybody that's on the beaches here, make sure that they have gone inside and are not still outdoors.
All right, I'm good to go if you guys want to
I think
work it in here.
I think Todd and I are gonna tag team this.
Awesome. Yeah, Mike.
Perfect.
Slifer, awesome. Getting on this storm real quickly. I just cruised in from the house, and this storm system is looking pretty formidable. I've been tracking it since it was back around, say, Manchester and Augusta, right, Mike? It was back
Yep.
in that area.
Yeah.
And then it kind of swept in from the north and west. It was showing some minor rotation about 45 minutes ago, and then all of a sudden, as it got into the hills there in Waldo and Knox County, it kind of just flared up. And it's got some solid rotation with it right now. I'm going to flip over to some other little parameters that we can play with here and get some velocity on here. And this is some pretty interesting stuff. So you can kind of see what the radar is seeing within the storm. And if I just need to get out of this real quickly, and yeah, here we go. So the radar is seeing wind within the storm, and it's picking up directional rotation here. So the reds and the yellows and the oranges are moving away from the radar, which is located in gray. So that's back to the west. So the reds in here are moving away from the storm, and the greens and the reds are moving toward the radar dome. And you get circulation in here right around Lincolnville and Camden. It looks like the core of the circulation is right around Route 1 right now, and it's about to cross over into the water now. So we're going to get out over
right
some
now,
of
but
these
thank you.
islands in here, which is also kind of, hair-raising, because this is a big boating weekend, Father's Day weekend. If you know folks that are out there on Penobscot Bay right now, please do what you can and give them a call on the cell phone. There's still cell coverage out here, even in some of the outer islands in here that are kind of desolate. But Islesboro, you got some cell coverage in there and all that kind of stuff. So give them a phone call, tell them to get to a safe harbor, and don't go back to the west toward the storm. Go to the east and get over toward, the Bagaduce River area, Castine. Maybe get in there and get off and get some shelter real quickly, because these are working in from the west real fast. So here's a look at the velocity with this, and right in here is the wind that's moving away from the radar. So the radar's back there to the west, and in here's the greens that are moving towards, so you can make out the circulation. And it's just about to cross over, it looks like Lincolnville Harbor, and then out over into the water. So we're getting close to this becoming, a non-factor for most people in this area, but this is a pretty strong storm. Mike, if you want to jump over to the radar on Weather 1 and pop up just the regular radar there, and I can show you some, or maybe the hail too. We can pop up some of the hail. We can show some of the hail in here, because this is definitely a supercell, and the hail core is up in here. But this is where your primary circulation would be. This is where your mesocyclone would be, right in here, exactly. So here's where the tornado warning is for Lincolnville, Knox and Waldo counties. The hail could be pretty large. It's probably melting a little bit as it comes down. But right in here, so there's your hail, there you go, and estimated size is about 1 inch as it's getting closer and closer to Lincolnville. So this could cause some problems and, you know, bring down some leaves and ruin some flower gardens. And if there are any fruit trees out here, they could have, you know, some big dimples in some of the apples and things like that, and they're just starting to grow. But right in here is where you get the appendage. You can put a stop on that real quick, Mike, if you can stop the loop. Thank you. Right in here is where you get this little appendage. So it's right in here where that tornado, if there is one, would be. And it's right now just indicated by Doppler radar. We don't have any ground truth to this yet. Haven't seen any pictures. Haven't got anything verified from the National Weather Service yet. Of course, police and law enforcement out here are probably have their hands full with phone calls, 911 calls, things like that. I'm sure there's some trees down and branches down and some power outages in the area too. But this is what we call this little notch right here. This is where the inflow to the storm is. So this is where it sucks up its moisture. This is where it sucks up its warmth and gets its food from, basically. And it gets sucked right up into the storm and develops this really strong updraft. And at the same time, that updraft starts to spin. And that's what we call a mesocyclone. And that's basically the parent to a funnel cloud. And that funnel cloud will dip below that, and if it touches the ground, it's deemed a tornado. And if it doesn't, it stays above the ground and doesn't affect any trees or people or anything like that. It would just be a funnel cloud. Menacing looking, but doesn't cause any problems at all. It's when it touches the ground when we have some problems and things like that. Mike, there's a couple other sources that I'm going to touch over here. And I don't know if have you seen anything from any reports from the area,
no,
other than just the radar based, right?
Yeah.
Large hail. What was that large hail report? Large hail finally made it to the low scan, and the likely circulation is still good. Yeah, they still think the circulation is still pretty good with this, definitely. Back to the hail, and let's bring this up to speed here. Now, yeah, so there's hail right over Lincolnville right here, and the harbor. And, you know, that's some pretty decent hail, it looks like. Hail size probably at least an inch or about an inch, yep. So, you know, that's about a quarter-sized hail right in there. So that's going to be a problem for sure. We got to keep an eye on that for the hail. Let's see. Let's get back to the live radar again and see where the current cell is. And it's just about to clear the water, which is really good news for the folks in Camden and Lincolnville. You know, it's not technically summer yet, but it's close enough where, you know, there's a lot of people in Maine right now, and this is a Saturday afternoon. This is not good at all. So that's a problem. We've got the islands that are out in Penobscot Bay that we have to worry about too. And, you know, there's a lot of people on these islands that have boats, that have sailboats. Islesboro's one of them, Warren Island another one. As we look at Penobscot Bay, we've got some other ones that are out here that could be impacted, like North Haven. And then you get to the other side of Penobscot Bay, places like Castine on the Bagaduce River, Brooksville, West Brooksville. You're getting up toward the mouth of the river, the Penobscot River, like Verona and Bucksport. So these are places that we've got to keep an eye on very closely. The cell itself is about to clear the coastline. There's still a tornado warning with it. We haven't had any pictures yet. We haven't had any video yet. Nonetheless, we recommend that you get to the lowest level of your home, preferably a basement. You know, a lot of New England homes do have basements or cellars, something that's underground that can provide some protection if indeed there is a tornado, all right? Stay away from windows. If you happen to think of it and have the opportunity to, grab a bike helmet, get your kids with their bike helmet, you've got a bike helmet, put that on, get to the lowest level of the house. Now, if you're in a house or a structure that doesn't have a basement or a cellar, then you want to get to an interior room, like a bathroom, or maybe it's a closet that's kind of under the stairs. That'll provide some protection. In the bathroom, you've got pipes and plumbing. That'll provide some protection for you. If you're underneath the stairs, you know, the stair casing, that'll help a lot too. And of course, if you have that helmet on and things get really crazy, you know, that helmet might provide some protection too if something's flying through the air. So again, we recommend that you get to the basement or the cellar, lowest level of your house, and stay away from all windows, because windows are going to be the first that shatter. They're going to crack, and then you've got giant pieces of glass and shards that are flying through the place. So again, interior room, underneath some stairs is great. A hall closet is great. Bring some pillows, bring some blankets. bring that bike helmet. That's another great suggestion too. I heard that was used a couple of years ago. Someone thought of that and was like, yes, that's brilliant. When I was covering a tornado back in Massachusetts, this was about 10 years ago, the big one that hit Springfield, that was an EF3. There was a parent that they didn't happen to have a basement. They brought their family, the mom brought her daughter into the bathroom, laid her down in the tub and laid on top of her and saved her daughter's life because of that. So these are little suggestions. I know it's crazy. If indeed there is a tornado on the ground, we don't have any verification of one yet, but that circulation's pretty tight. It's far away from the radar, but I bet there's at very least a funnel cloud with this particular cell. And it may even be touching the ground. So if it is, we've got a tornado on the ground and that could cause some problems. So let's be safe rather than sorry in this case. Bring that bike helmet, bring blankets, bring pillows for stuff like that. Mike, you got anything?
Take a look at the video that just came in.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think.
Okay, yeah, you want to pop in here?
Yeah. I'll jump back over, and we've outlined where the best safe spaces are. Spaces in green, best places to be. Areas in red you want to avoid, and you certainly don't want to be outside. I'm going to actually jump back over to the radar in just a second, but we did just get an interesting video that came in. It's tough to tell exactly.
It is tough to tell. That could be a rain shaft or it could be a funnel, one of the two. But,
yeah.
It's definitely, there's definitely a wall cloud there, which is kind of that mesocyclone that I was talking about. When you want to pop the radar back up on there? Yeah, that'd be great. When you have a wall cloud, that's basically the base of the mesocyclone, and that mesocyclone is what spins. Okay, that's where we get the rotation in the cell, and it usually happens right around. I'll show you right here when we get to that final frame, right in there. Okay, that's that appendage. It kind of looks like a comma head, right? Looks like a comma head, and it's right in there where you're going to get that maximum circulation, right in here. Some of the velocities that I was seeing, it's measured in miles per hour. The outbound velocities were about 75 miles per hour right in here. That's the yellow and the oranges. That was about 75, if I remember, when I was looking at the radar and analyzing it. And the inbound is about 25. So you've got, a cumulative miles per hour there of about 100. So that's pretty dangerous. Now, this is pretty far away from the radar dome itself, which is located back in gray, good 50 miles back to the west. So it's sampling higher up in the storm, but that circulation's tight enough. I recognize that type of signature right there. That's a tornado vortex signature for sure. You get this supercell like comma head. So, our guard's got to be up, and it's basically clearing the coastline now. Now we've got some islands like Islesboro that's coming up next. You're running out of time if you know folks that are out on their boats, out on sailboats. It's Saturday afternoon. People recreate. You're running out of time. Like, they've got to go this way and get to a safe harbor on the backside of some of these islands and get off their vessel and get into an interior room or interior closet or into a basement or into a cellar of the dwelling that they're in. So here's your hail up in here. It's now out over water, but about to nail Islesboro. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a report of an inch in diameter hail. That's about a quarter size. May even be a little bit larger because this thing still looks very healthy to me. And there's your hail track right there. So came out of the Camden Hills right through Lincolnville and heading right over to Islesboro. This is all the Penobscot Bay area, all right? The Penobscot Bay area of Maine. The mouth of the river is up here, and then if you come down, you got the rest of the bay. There's Lincolnville, there's Camden, there's Rockport, and then you got Rockland right below it. So this area is getting hit really hard right now. That hail's working off the coastline and about to nail Islesboro. And then go on to the other side of Penobscot Bay, and we've got some other towns over there. If this thing stays healthy and stays there, it could be pretty powerful as it gets to the east side of Penobscot Bay. We're in South Brooksville. We've got Sedgwick, Deer Isle. All right, these places in here, you're getting heavy rain. You can see that dark cloud off in the distance, and there you go. There's that appendage, and there's the notch, the inflow notch. That inflow notch is how the thunderstorm keeps its fuel and keeps its energy and keeps its food. It keeps flowing into it really healthy. You get that updraft flying up, and it starts to rotate because you've got some sideways winds up there. And you get this rotation, that's where you get that mesocyclone and that wall cloud that we just saw, a little bit of that we just saw. We're going to maybe try to get that video on air. can't tell you for sure that it's a tornado, but there is a little shaft with it. It could be a rain shaft, or it could be a funnel cloud coming down, and you can't see the ground either. So, but we'll try to work and get that video up for you so that we can show it to you. Again, tornado warning continues for, let's see, until 5:30, so about 9 more minutes, and this includes Islesboro right here, and it still includes Lincolnville, although I would say at this point that you're out of the woods now in Lincolnville. I'd love to hear some reports from what you got. If you happen to have power still, or your cell coverage still works, we'd love to get some info from you. I'm sure that some of the area has seen hail, probably at least 1 inch in diameter, very gusty wind as well, probably 60+ miles per hour. I would suspect that there are a lot of power outages in this area, and I would suspect also that law enforcement has their hands full. So, you know, we're trying to work the area and get some information, but there's a good chance that there was at the very least a funnel cloud that came through parts of Penobscot Bay and the mid-coast, and is now working out over the ocean. Let's go back over to the velocity. I just want to check on that. Awesome, thank you for that. I just got a report from one of our producers that we have about 9,000 power outages. Most of them are back in Kennebec County, where the storm kind of evolved and swelled up. But you know, that's probably because we've had some time to evaluate the situation. People have probably called in to CMP and let them know that they don't have the power anymore. So that's probably why we're able to get info from back there. I would suspect that there's going to be some power outages in Waldo and Knox County too in the next few minutes to an hour. We'll start to get some reports of that. So once again, the velocity mode here, you've got outbound wind and inbound wind. Keep in mind the radar's back in gray to the west. So right in here is where your circulation is, okay? It's now clearing Islesboro and heading to some of the smaller islands in Penobscot Bay. And then we'll be on the other side, Deer Isle, Brooksville. Right here is the Bagaduce River. This is the mouth of the Bagaduce River. Goes up through Castine and Brooksville. Beautiful, beautiful area. This is scenic. This is God's country. And there are a lot of people that like to come up to Maine just to see that area, just to see this part of the state because it's so pristine and so beautiful. So let them know, you know, if you happen to have friends in the area that are out and about, you know, meandering around on a weekend, let them know that there's some powerful storms coming their way, because I'm sure they can see it and hear it, but they probably don't know that it's being tornado warned right now. Let's see if we got any other information here from the Weather Service. They're continuing. They did receive that possible video from of a tornado, so we're gonna send that along to them and see what they think. They'll probably end up. What will end up happening here is, you know, they may not be able to tell us if it's a tornado right away, but tomorrow they'll probably head out and evaluate the situation, send a couple of their employees out to this area of the state, and check on the tree damage. You know, are the trees all blown down in one direction? Or are they kind of chaotically arranged on the ground? Are they broken halfway up? Are other ones strewn this way and that way? So thank you, Mike, for throwing that up. This is a perfect example. You know, microburst is what we call straight line wind. Microburst is when the thunderstorm basically exhales, okay, and just lets out a big breath. And that breath can't go through the ground, right? It's solid, so then it fans out in the same direction and all around like that in a big, you know, circular pattern. But it's not a circle, okay? It's not chaotic. It's all in one direction from where the epicenter is, basically. Kind of like when you see an earthquake and the epicenter kind of goes out like that in the big circle. That's what you get with a microburst. Everything gets knocked down in the same direction. So we'll determine if it's that or something more like this, where you get trees knocked down and limbs all over the place, and there's no really rhyme or reason to how they fell or why they fell or where they fell. It's all kind of circular and chaotic all over the place. So that's what they'll look for. The National Weather Service office would look for something like that, some sort of pattern in the damage, in the debris field, and the path of this storm as it went through parts of Penobscot Bay and the mid-coast. So here's the latest. Still tornado warning for a few more minutes. What time we got here? We're at 5:25 and a half. This is in place until 5:30. So they're probably going to let this expire, I would guess, but we'll see, because it is still going to impact some other islands in Penobscot Bay. and then emerge on the other side of it over toward Deer Isle and Stonington too. So we'll watch this closely, but I think you're out of the woods on the west side of Penobscot Bay, places like Lincolnville and Camden and all the beautiful resorts and motels and restaurants and everything like that. You know, everything can get back to normal, hopefully. There's not a lot of damage back here. But this cell is now moving out over Penobscot Bay and the islands of it. There's North Haven to the south. It just came over Islesboro, and it's now heading across to the east, and next up will be Deer Isle, Stonington. You've got Sedgwick and the rest of down East Maine too. Looks like places like Blue Hill, Brooksville, you're getting some thunder and lightning. There's Castine, Maine Maritime Academy right there. Thankfully they're on summer break now. But there's still a ton of people over here vacationing right now. Looks like they just extended severe thunderstorm warning through this part of the area that we just touched on, Stonington, Deer Isle, Sedgwick, and points east as well as that cell itself comes across Penobscot Bay. Wind speeds with it, you know, you're going to get this big gust of wind preceding it. That's what we call a gust front. That's the storm exhaling, okay, and announcing its arrival as it comes into town. And it'll precede most of the rain. It'll precede any hail shaft, which if there is still one would be right in there where we're getting those magenta returns from the radar. See that right there? That's the hail shaft, and that just cleared Islesboro. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a report of some hail in Islesboro too. But this is going to be moving off to the east pretty quickly at about 35, 40 miles per hour. So these are moving fairly fast. Loaded with rain too, by the way. If you happen to get caught in this and it's not the hail and it's not the wind part of it, you're getting torrential rain. I mean, you're getting tropical downpours that will lead to, because these are supercells, they are notorious for leading to some flash flooding. Like they could cover up a parking lot and a roadway like that. Kind of like what we saw earlier last week in down East Maine, where we had some culverts washed out. Supercells, notorious for doing similar things, just a much smaller scale. That was a wider scale. That took up several towns, almost the entire coastal Washington County, that big rainstorm a little while ago. This storm is now clearing Islesboro and approaching Deer Isle and Stonington. Still has that little curl. You see that little curl right in there? I don't like it when it curls, because that tells me that there's still some low-level rotation, and in this case, mid-level rotation too. You've got a solid mesocyclone, which is, you know, keeping that storm healthy and thriving, unfortunately, and can still be the parent and still be the source of a funnel cloud or a tornado. If the funnel cloud touches the ground, touches the water, it would be a tornado / water spout, depending on where it is. There would be your hail shaft right there coming into the islands again. This is moving quickly across Penobscot Bay. I think they're going to let this tornado warning expire in another minute and a half, because the cell itself is long gone. So I don't think you have to worry any longer in Lincolnville or in Camden. But now the question is, does this survive the trip into the rest of down East Maine, Deer Isle, Stonington, Sedgwick? And the way I look at it right now, the way I see it is, it is. I mean, as it goes across Penobscot Bay, you'd think to yourself, well, the water's frigid, right? So how can anything thrive in that environment? Well, the upper atmosphere is primed right now. It's very humid, and there's a little disturbance aloft that's even colder than the surface. And that's leading to this rapid rise of air and this powerful storm, this supercell as we call it. So this is going to continue to work off to the east, clipping along. Mike, what would you say? That's like 30, 35, 40 miles per hour moving to the east on that?
Yeah, it's moving pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it's about 35, I'd say. 35 miles per hour. I don't know if it says anything in the write-up there in the warning itself, but I'd say about 35 to 30. 25 to 30, about 30. Okay, so about 30 miles per hour to the east. Announcing its arrival will be that gust front, that straight line wind. That wouldn't be the tornado. You've got very heavy rain as well, and then back behind it, you've got a hail shaft, which is this magenta area right in there, and then you've got that appendage, that little curl right there, which if there is a tornado, that's where it would be. Let's pop on the velocity again and show some hail too. We can get a little closer into some of these islands as well. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's do that. So you get an idea, like Stonington, Route 15, Deer Isle, Sedgwick, Brooksville's to the north. I don't think there would be any circulation coming through Brooksville. I think you're going to end up with getting like the heavy rain, maybe a little bit of hail in there, Brooksville and Castine. You're definitely getting thunder and lightning for sure. Definitely that for sure. Let's see, this is the velocity mode. Yeah, let's pop up that video. So we were able to turn this video pretty quickly, and I don't know the area, but we just got it sent into the office, And that's definitely a thunderhead, cumulonimbus cloud. And you've got this wall cloud on the bottom there. That's that little shaft coming out. And it's really tough to tell at this angle whether that's the rain shaft, okay, or if that's an actual funnel. But nonetheless, that's a powerful storm. You just saw cloud-to-cloud lightning with it. That could be cloud-to-ground too. That's
Pond in Lincolnville.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Norton's Pond in Lincolnville.
Norton's Pond in Lincolnville. Okay, so that would be the area. That's the cell that we're talking about and referring to. And as you can see, as he closes in here, you got that shaft. And that's what I don't know. Is that shaft a funnel, or is that shaft the rain? And you just can't tell from video like that. Nonetheless, it piqued our interest, and it's definitely got us concerned. That's the cell as it came into Lincoln from the north and west. This storm kind of swelled up as it left the western Maine mountains and crossed kind of the Route 2 corridor. And as it approached Augusta and Waterville from the north and west, that's when it started to take on some rotation. And at the first part of it, it was just all heavy rain, tropical-like rain. But then as it got south and east of Augusta and Waterville and started getting into Waldo and Knox County, that's when the circulation and the mesocyclone got stronger. And that's when the radar said, okay, we've had enough. We've got to warn people about this because there's too much circulation within the storm to not give some sort of heads up to people. Whether we know if there's a tornado or not, we're going to be extra cautious and let everybody know. So that could have been tornado video. We'll find out probably tomorrow or in the days ahead to see if the National Weather Service sends out some info.
There's still some solid rotation. It's
Yeah.
really organized.
Yep, it's definitely very organized still. We've got a lot of small islands in here, a lot of boaters out in here. So we're going to keep an eye on this, and we'll stay with you. This is a severe thunderstorm warning. Great, yeah, let's pop up any video you got. This is hail video from Lincolnville, and looks like it was a nice spot about an hour and a half ago to hang out by. Not so much now. Heavy rain, a little bit of hail bouncing off the deck there. Doesn't look to be too large, kind of like pea-sized hail, pretty small in that particular location. But that doesn't mean that it's not anything worse than that in other areas. I wouldn't be shocked if we do get some reports of 1-inch hail. I bet the sun is popping out, or maybe a rainbow or something like that in the Lincolnville area now, in the wake of this supercell, since it has passed. And it's now out over Penobscot Bay and closing in on the east side of Penobscot Bay now. You've got Deer Isle, you've got Stonington, popular area down here, and Harbor. I'm hoping the cell stays just north of Stonington because, that's definitely a destination. But then down the line, you've got Brooklyn, you've got Sedgwick, you've got Blue Hill up here, you've got MDI coming up too. This is moving to the south and east. So I'm just hoping it just gets Deer Isle and goes out to sea and doesn't kind of do something funky on us and kind of curl back to the north a little bit. Because when you're in a supercell situation, they really do have minds of their own. They can be unpredictable, especially within that mesocyclone. You talk to any storm chaser that goes out into the Midwest trying to track a tornado, and they will tell you they've seen some crazy things in their lifetime. If they're lifetime storm trackers, things that tornadoes do that you would never expect in a million years. You can see as it came over Islesboro, and it kind of weakened a little bit off the coast of Lincolnville and then came into Islesboro, and now it looks like it's swelling up again. It's flaring up again. And these things cycle. These supercells tend to cycle. Hail could be 1.2 inches. That's like almost golf ball size, okay, or ping pong ball size hail. Keep in mind they're sampling this pretty high up in the storm, so I would think that a lot of that melts as it gets to the ground, and maybe it's closer to like nickel or pea or penny size hail. I'd be surprised if we get up to a solid golf ball, but not out of the question with supercells. It happens often. It happens quite a bit. Yeah.
We're gonna take this on.
Hang on a second, folks.
Because the tornado warning is down.
Great.
People
Okay.
back to golf.
Yep.
We'll come back on.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do, folks. If you've been watching and staying with us, we're going to pop back over to the U.S. Open, the golf tournament. Big tournament this weekend, Father's Day weekend, always has the U.S. Open golf tournament. We're going to go back to that now that the tornado warning has expired. But we're going to be on our social channels. We're going to be on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram as well. But if you go to our Facebook page or if you go to our News Center Maine website, you can get all the information there. We're going to continue to televise, basically, all this info ongoing throughout the evening until this severe weather threat is gone. So you can pop over on the Facebook, you can pop over on newscentermaine.com, and we'll continue to do what we're doing right now, keeping you informed. For now, though, all our television viewers, you are going to go back to the U.S.
Person who emailed in that video from Lincolnville that we were talking about, chatting about the potential funnel cloud that was in that video. That has been sent to the National Weather Service, and again, I think that what we're going to hear over the next couple of days is that they're going to send a crew out there to see exactly how the damage looks, if there is any damage. But again, if you can safely do it, the Near Me section of our app is a great way to communicate with us. In fact, if you send things in on the Near Me section of our app, I can pretty quickly and easily get them into our graphic system and get those up on air and pass those along to the National Weather Service. But I want to stress this one more time. The key here is safety. You got to be safe before we're worried about anything like that. Make sure that your safety comes first.
Well, we were out for a tornado.
All right, let's jump back to this thunderstorm. The newest scan of the radar isn't quite as impressive as it was.
I mean, it's not the final round.
I'm actually going through some of the submissions here on
really surprises me.
Near Me.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of stuff coming in, starting to trickle in from Camden, Rockport,
Very weird.
Orland. We've got all sorts of stuff coming back through. The latest scan on the radar here doesn't show quite as much organization in this storm, but it still looks like there's quite a bit of wind starting to wrap back around it, out ahead of it in Deer Isle. The problem here is that we're starting to get further away from the radar in Gray and the radar in Hodgdon, so we don't have quite as much data when it comes to low-level scans. That does have an impact on whether or not we can clearly make out those rotation signatures, especially when it comes to checking the velocity of these storms. But let me show you what I'm looking at and talk a bit about what I see. So these winds right here, this area that you see that's highlighted with pink pixels now, is wind that's actually moving away from the gray radar. So this is moving out to the south and east. Gray radar, of course, back to the north and west. And this area of green is moving toward the radar. So we still have quite a bit of rotation just between these two regions. And again, when the rotation's right on top of each other like this, we call that gate-to-gate shear. And it's one of the things that we look for when it comes to a signature of rotation in a storm like this. Granted, we're a little further from the radar site at this point in time. We're sampling the storm a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, and certainly there's some rotation with what we call the mesocyclone anyways, and that's how you end up with a thunderstorm like this of supercell structure. And of course, these are, as you just saw, the types of storms that could potentially drop tornadoes. So we're going to stick with this here on social media and on digital as it moves through Deer Isle and Stonington. This is on track to make its way to MDI. I said this earlier on the Facebook Live. If you know anybody that's at Acadia National Park, make sure that they are aware of this. There's some spots where you don't have any cell service in the national park. If anybody out there is hiking, things like that, try to find a way to get in contact with them. I'm sure that if they're looking off to the west, they can actually see a lot of these mean, dark clouds. You saw from the video that we played earlier, too, this was a pretty distinct shape. Supercells tend to have a very distinct structure to them, so you can actually pick them out a little more easily. It's one of those things that when you're looking at the atmosphere, you look up to the north and west, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't look right. Something about that's unnatural. And they're mean storms, they're damaging. A couple of tornado stats here to share with you in Maine. We average about 2 a year. Last year we had one near Sebago in Cumberland County. This year, none so far, but again, we're kind of in the beginning of our severe weather season. We tend to see most of our severe weather season late spring, like late May through August. It's mostly late spring into the summer where we really have issues with severe weather. Since 1950, all the tornadoes that have been confirmed in Maine are EF2 or lower. So the scale goes from EF0 to EF5. And there's only ever been one fatality related to a tornado, and that actually happened in August of 1954. And part of that, of course, has to do with the messaging and the way that we can actually reach out to everybody here. We are able to reach a much larger crowd when it comes to talking about severe weather. Let's see here. go back up to the radar and see what our storm's doing.
Mike, we do have an LSR, local storm report, from the National Weather Service near Waterville.
Okay.
And they reported numerous trees down in the Waterville area. That occurred around 3:25, so that was kind of back where, in the infancy of this, when it was kind of flaring up. That was back in Waterville. So we're starting to see the reports trickle in, and I bet we'll see like the path of...
Yeah, you could pick out the line that the
Yeah,
storm
exactly.
took.
So that's the first one that we've gotten so far. That one, again, Waterville, numerous trees down. Of course, we don't know if they're, in all kinds of directions, or if they're a straight line and all in one direction. We just don't know at this point. But that's something that the National Weather Service will kind of consider tomorrow and perhaps early next week, to head back and maybe check out the area and evaluate whether this was a straight line wind, or if this was tornado involved in this at all. So we're getting some more pictures in. I've actually just got a picture from Camden that has a rainbow in it, like we were talking about, in the wake of the storm. Wouldn't be shocked, the sun's popping out, things are going to be beautiful again. Hopefully there isn't a ton of damage. I was just checking on CMP and looking at their outage report, and they have about 5,000 outages in Kennebec County, and they also have a little over 2,000 outages in Somerset County. So there's some other storms out there. When you get a sec, we can kind of widen the radar, and we can kind of see what else is going on outside of the down east coastline right now. But you can see there's some action up north of Calais and St. Stephen there, near looks like Danforth and Topsfield.
Yeah, we were tracking a pretty
those are pretty nasty
cell.
as they move over into New Brunswick. A lot of lightning in there, right?
A lot of lightning, a lot of cloud to ground stuff, and there was one cell that moved through southeastern Aroostook County earlier that we thought could go tornadic.
And it just didn't get to that
was
limit.
Real close, but didn't quite make it there.
Let's go even wider. Let's see what the rest of the state looks like. I mean, a lot of people are still trying to make plans for the evening. I mean, it's dinner time. Okay, they've got an outdoor seating, coming up in about an hour.
Oh yeah.
Should they go? Should they not? There are a few other little areas of concern, but nothing like what we've got on the down east coast, like around Augusta, back through the Oxford Hills. Looks like Lewiston, Auburn, Mechanic Falls. Looks like you've got a heavier downpour in there, but this stuff is going to be moving through fairly quickly. So I'd give it a half an hour, and then you can resume your evening and resume your plans. The stuff in down east Maine, that's kind of a different story. The cell still looks pretty powerful. You get a little closer. Let's see if it looks like we've got some hail in there too. This is crossing Deer Isle now. All right, so this is crossing Deer Isle, and then very shortly we'll be heading over the peninsula over into Sedgwick, and you can see Blue Hill, and maybe scraping MDI also. So that's a little bit of a concern there. If it scrapes by an MDI, we've got a lot of people out there, obviously, for people that are vacationing or just in for the weekend, saying hi to mom and dad, things like that. So.
Quick update, there's actually another strong storm ongoing right now in northern Maine too. Keeping an eye on this one. This is mostly going to be for wind and hail.
Yeah.
This is going right over Caribou though. It doesn't have the same structure that we saw in that storm that's passing off the down east coastline right now. So we're not worried about a tornado with this one, which is good news, but this is still pack a punch as it moves through. Heavy rain along basically right through downtown Caribou toward Limestone.
Yeah, that's a pretty good cell right there. So there is a warning on it. Winds potentially up to 60 miles per hour, hail possibly to an inch, moving fairly quickly, 30-ish, 35 miles per hour or so. About to cross some of these larger towns that are up in Aroostook County. Obviously, there's a lot of desolate area up there, thankfully, where there aren't many people living, so this isn't going to impact a lot of people, but those that it does, it's going to mean business. And it could knock out power. Yeah. It could bring down some trees. This is a pretty solid line, this little segment in here, from about, New Sweden all the way down through Mapleton, Presque Isle. So that's a good 20 miles or so of some really hefty thunderstorm action there. And it's moving pretty quickly over to Route 1 and 1A there and about to cross the border. It'll be over into New Brunswick in probably 40 minutes or so, maybe even less, maybe a half an hour, right?
Could be a little less.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably going to be over there in about a half an hour. But that'll be out of the U.S. at that point. It'll be over in Canada, and they'll drop the warning. It's up until 6:30, but it may get dropped a little bit earlier than that. There's some other large storms over in New Brunswick there. That one that just crossed the border, that's nasty looking too. That had some rotation. Is this the one you were talking about that you were watching closely?
We were watching pretty closely.
Yeah, that
as
looked
it
like
moved through earlier.
Yep, that looked like it was spinning a little bit. Let's go south. Let's see what we got down to the south. Yeah, that's that cluster near Calais and near Topsfield.
Rogue storm.
Oh yeah,
cross over 95 near Lincoln.
Yep, Medford moving out of the Central Highlands and approaching the 95 corridor there. Let's go close in on that. Let's see if there's any rotation with that. These storms have been exhibiting that rotation. Oh, yeah. A lot of them haven't gotten to that limit where the Weather Service puts out a warning. Thankfully, they're kind of capping just below that threshold, but still. This one's smaller, but this one's going to pack a punch as it moves into the Penobscot River Valley north of Howland, and affects other towns like Lincoln and also Mattawamkeag. That'll probably be with you in about 15 minutes. We can stop that. We can put we can put a tracker on that for the folks that are watching right now, in case you are. Yeah, you can do that right there. Perfect.
It's going to track almost right out Route 6.
Yep. Okay. So there you go. Guilford in a few minutes. You got 10 minutes. I mean, it's going to be moving pretty quickly your way. South, Lincoln in about we got about 25 minutes or so. So that's moving. I'm not sure what the speed is on that right there, but it might be a little quicker into the Lincoln area because that's got us at 6:15-ish. That's a half an hour away. It might be about 15 minutes. I'm not sure where. If you right click on, there you go. Let's see. It might be a little more realistic there. In about 15-20 minutes, I'd say that's pretty accurate there. So if you live in that area, you're probably going to see, you'll obviously get heavy rain, and you're probably going to get some lightning out of that at the very least. And we'll see if it pulses up and gives us hail again, or anything worse. Let's see. Let's go back out and let's see what else is out there. Let's go back down to the warned storm. This is in place until 6:30, so another 45 minutes. And again, this is right on the coast. This is moving right into Brooklyn, I believe, as it crosses out of Deer Isle and into Brooklyn, and then it would cross the Mount Desert Narrows and approach MDI on the south side of MDI. So you've got Swans Island out here, you've got Isle La Ho out here, also getting, you're probably seeing some real dark clouds in all these islands, Swans Island, Isle La Ho, back in Deer Isle too. And Stonington, which is like you are out of the woods now, which is good, but hopefully you didn't get your power knocked out or anything like that, and things are pretty good. So this cell is looking like it's not as strong as it once was, but when it was back near Camden and Lincolnville, but it's not falling apart.
Right.
And
it's still there.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you people who live in this area, they know that if a line of storms is coming in from the west, chances are it's going to fall apart.
Right.
Chances are it's not going to pack the punch that it did back in, say, Rumford, or in Skowhegan or Farmington, and most of the time that's the case. But in this case, it's not. In this case, we've got a ribbon of instability, and we've got a lot of upper level energy that are fueling these storms and keeping them healthy and keeping them alive.
Absolutely. That was one of the things that I was looking into earlier this morning too, was to try to figure out where the most likely areas for severe weather would be, and there was this narrow ribbon of a lot of energy for these storms to tap into that went basically right along the mid coast and then kind of wrapped up toward the Penobscot a little bit.
So this is kind of exactly where they really swelled up.
Right. And
where you were analyzing that this morning.
Ran into some energy, and I think the big piece here is the enhanced moisture.
Yeah.
Still, there's like a little bit of rotation with it, not nearly as strong as what we saw earlier.
Yeah, we're not seeing the greens like we did, although it's tough to tell which radar is picking this up right now, whether it's the radar out of Hodgson, Maine, up near Holton, with the National Weather Service office from Caribou, or whether it's Gray's radar. Unfortunately, we're kind of on the edge of both.
Right, either way, not very close.
Yeah, and when you're on the edge of both, like, you're not getting good sampling.
Exactly.
You're not getting good data. You're sampling way high up in the storm. I mean, I'd say it's at least 10,000 feet.
If not more.
If not higher, that they're sampling this. So you're not getting, the low-level circulation. If there were a cell bearing down on, say, Gray's radar at their Weather Service office, say it was coming into like Raymond, okay?
Right, yep.
You'd be getting the lowest levels. You'd be really able to see what's inside that
Right.
storm and really how intense that low-level circulation is, whether it was capable of producing a tornado or not. In this case, we don't have the good sampling, unfortunately, because it's just so far from both radar sites that Maine has.
It's tough. It's a tough location to track
It is.
severe weather, but thankfully severe storms are so few and far between.
Right, as we were just talking about, that's crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Swans Island, it looks like you're going to get grazed on the north side there. I would think you'd get a gust front out of this.
I would agree.
You may not get a raindrop, but you'll get a big gust of wind.
Yep.
And you'll be like, whoa, what's happening? If you're out there sitting on the front porch, kind of looking out over the water, and this big gust of wind comes in, it'll get your attention for sure.
All the way down to Frenchboro too, and
Yep.
I said it earlier. I said on this Facebook Live at like 3:30. I think we've been on for like 2 hours.
A couple hours now, right?
Warn people in Acadia. I have spent a lot of time in Acadia National Park, and there's a lot of spots where you don't have great cell coverage.
Right.
Even if this ends up a little bit further south, there's still lightning out ahead of it.
Sure. If folks are hiking around, that's dangerous stuff.
Right.
Yep.
Being on top of if
On
you're
Cadillac,
if
sure.
you're on Cadillac, if you're on Beach Ridge Mountain, there's nothing else around you. There's
Yep.
no trees up there. You're the tallest thing.
Yep.
Not great when it comes to lightning. I am
So-
curious to see what they end up with for wind gusts on Mount Desert Island.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. There's a lot of islands in Maine, folks. Like I'm gonna be honest, Mike and I, we don't know every island in Maine, but there are a lot of smaller ones, and I'm just like closing in on a map right now. And there's a few islands that are right in the path of that storm right there. You've got Little Gott Island, Great Gott Island, and Black Island, to name a few. And it does look like, all of these are, at least Great Gott Island is inhabited. It does look like there are a few roads on it. But again, there are countless. We might have the most islands in all of the U.S., right? Like our coastline. I think it does. I think there's some crazy stat like that.
Yeah.
Like some record that we hold. So we don't know all of them, but it's closing in on those islands right there. And then it looks like it'll scoot across the Narrows. And likely, graze southern parts of MDI like Tremont and maybe some of the Cranberry Islands. You've got Great Cranberry and Little Cranberry out in Frenchman Bay there, or just off of it. That could get impacted. Sutton Island as well. Somes Sound, Southwest Harbor, Bass Harbor Lighthouse. We do have a webcam. Let me. I'm gonna see if I can get that Bass Harbor webcam. I'm gonna see if.
I
can do it over here if you want to keep the radar up. I'll do it on Weather 2.
Let me know how it looks. I think.
I'm curious if any of our webcams are seeing anything interesting right now.
I've got it queued up if you want me to pop it up just to see.
The Bass Harbor one?
Yeah.
Oh, you do have it already? Yeah, let's see what's going on. Well, you can't.
Cloudy.
Yeah,
Can't
you
see much.
Can't see much. Looks like it's clouding up, but I'll tell you, I was on the water briefly earlier this afternoon, and it definitely. You mentioned that the influx of moisture, the humidity levels.
Yeah.
There's definitely a spike out there today. The last couple days were nice and dry after the real humid stuff we had earlier this week. Last couple days, I'll tell you, today it's a different story. I mean, you can feel the mugginess out there, and that's probably just exactly what these storms needed to get that extra little piece of fuel.
Dew points and temps both spiked. I mean, Portland made it to 86.
Wow.
It was warm out there today.
Man, I blew that one. I was going 78.
Mike,
that wasn't even close, Mike.
It was warm. Even down east, some of the temperatures came in mid to upper 70s, low 80s.
Yeah.
It looks like the cell's finally starting to fall apart a little bit more.
Well, that's good.
Quite as organized, and I'd imagine that part of that is the colder water temps too. I'm not sure if we have any info on what the temps are right off the coast of MDI. I can look that up in a sec. No big changes.
No big changes in power outages. We're checking out the power outages right now. There's not much change. Still about 5,000 in Kennebec County and about 2,000 was that Somerset County.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't read unless I have my reading glasses, Mike, by the way. I'm that old now.
Knox is up to almost 1,000.
Okay,
which
so that's
is higher than it was.
There you go. Yeah, so that's starting to creep up.
Waldo at 826.
Yeah.
So I think the reports are starting to come in. I'd imagine that there's also just a lag time too. in
Oh,
that.
total lag time. I mean, if you look at, if you go a little bit wider here, Mike, look at it the cell when it was back near Lincolnville, and look at it now, and just look how much smaller it is, coverage wise, intensity wise. Again, it's slowly kind of diffusing.
Yeah, and it doesn't have that notch that you look
Right.
for on those.
Thankfully.
thunderstorms.
So at this point, very heavy rain, likely some lightning, perhaps a little bit of small hail still in that. There might be a little core trying to hang on, but that updraft, I bet, is starting to fall apart, and the storm looks like it's beginning to collapse.
Yeah.
Which is great news. Again, at the edge of both radar scopes here, right at the edge of their how far they can go. So we're not getting great sampling, but it does look like it is starting to kind of wane here as it moves into MDI, into
see if I can
MDI right now.
Pull up the water temperatures off the coast of Maine and talk a little bit about what's going on there and why, part of the reason why it may influence this storm weakening, that is. Let's see. All right, take a look here. Off the coast of Bar Harbor, water temperature is about 53 degrees. So that says to me that it's moving over some cooler, stable air. It just doesn't have that energy and instability that it needs to really keep going. And that's great news, of course, because we'd like this storm to just wrap up. But 53 degrees, not really great to keep thunderstorms like that alive. And I think that that's going to play a big role in what happens with this as it keeps moving and eventually moves off the coastline. In fact, arguably the biggest factor in why this is finally going to start to weaken a bit. But that was a mean cell as it moved.
Mike, we've got a few more storm reports from the Weather Service that they pass along to us in their chat room. We mentioned the Waterville one a few minutes ago. That was numerous trees down. That occurred around 3:25. We've got a new one from Oakland, also near the Waterville area, Kennebec County. This was 3:22, trees, power lines down. So there was definitely a lot of wind as the storm kind of sort of just flare up. Benton, also same area, thunderstorm wind damage, 3:35, trees and power lines down. Then we're into Palermo, and we're into Waldo County. Let's see here. Fire department rescue, I believe that's the report. Yep, so that's a reliable source. You've got their fire department of Palermo reporting trees and power lines down. So that continues to show us the path as it gets into Waldo County, continuing to drop some trees and result in some power outages. Next two reports we have Islesboro. We've got a quarter-size hail. So remember we were talking about that. You can see the hail track, and we mentioned wouldn't be shocked to get some reports of hail out there on the island, and sure enough we did. Quarter-size hail, 1-inch diameter. Last one, Monroe. Let's see, that hail report, by the way, was at 5:20. So that correlates to the radar really well. And then the last report, this just came in, Monroe, 4:05. So that's back in Waldo County again, and more trees down.
And I just want to mention this one more time. If you can safely do so, we'd love to see your pictures and videos. We've already gotten a few through email, but you can send it right through the Near Me section on our app. Honestly, probably the easiest way to get it to us, just because we can immediately get that into our graphic system. I've got some dramatic pictures of Lincolnville that have come in through the Near Me section on our app. Todd, take a look at this. Take a look at this picture.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so hard to say in a still shot.
Right.
I'd love to know. I'd love to see video. Hopefully, they'll be sending in video very shortly, because if there's video, you can see rotation.
Absolutely.
In a still shot, you can't make out rotation, and therefore you can't definitively say, oh yeah, that's a funnel cloud. It looks like one.
It looks like one, but it's tough to say.
Yeah, that looks like one, but you just can't say unless you see the video of the storm rotating.
Wow, that's a nice shot of the supercell.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
The mesocyclone.
Yeah. That is very pretty, and that's scary if you're a boater for sure, and you see that on your horizon. Yeah, a couple more storm reports for you, Mike, while you thumb through those pictures and find some new ones.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
A few more storm reports. Yes.
We got 2 crews out there.
Great.
should we divert one? They were both headed into the.
Lincolnville, Camden area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can reroute one to the Waterville area right now if we need to. What's your best guess?
I would guess, and again, this is just a guess. I would guess that we're going to get reports of wind damage and trees and wires down out of Camden and out of Lincolnville. Maybe not Camden. That was a little farther south, but so
one crew to Lincolnville.
I would go in that area. I mean, just at the very least, you're going to get some, I would think, some dramatic statements by people as they saw the storm go out toward Islesboro and head out into Penobscot Bay.
The question is,
I mean, we know we got hail.
Some of the Waterville, they won't make it into that area, but we'll have a crew in each place.
I think we can. Yeah, one in each would be the best
if
way.
we can
Sean,
do
did
that,
you hear that?
that would be great. So there were a few more.
Sean, you can go ahead and reroute to the Waterville
a few more
area.
reports, Mike. And this was from the National Weather Service office in Caribou, so this is more northern. This wasn't for this particular cell itself, but this was the other ones that you were tracking. The one
Yep.
that you said was really close to some circulation there.
Numerous
Yep.
trees down, trees on line.
This one's Connor.
Okay, you got it.
And I'll have Sean and Mike try to
Hang on
give
a
you more
second.
specifics.
Okay, wait.
Todd and
I'm
Mike.
Sean.
Sorry.
Who's going to be the other one? Do you have any specifics?
Todd and Mike.
Tom. Gotcha. Okay.
Goodbye.
Yep.
So
How
in
far is
Teams
he?
breaking news. He's about 30 minutes from Waterville.
Oh, good. Okay.
So they just need more specifics.
I got it. I'll take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, let's see. The report was west.
It's Lincolnville we want.
Yes, Lincolnville.
Lincolnville.
Yep, Lincolnville.
Sorry.
And you know what? Like if they go into downtown, and hang out by one of those, I'm sure that people will be talking, as it came through.
All
The
right.
restaurants there and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I would think they're chatting about it.
There should be some good stories out of this
Yeah.
one, I would imagine.
Connor up in Aroostook County had pea-sized hail and a thunderstorm wind gust of 50 miles per hour. Let's see, the National Weather Service office in Caribou. So this was an NWS employee that reported this, had a gust of 55.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, so that was legit. In addition to that, they also had half-inch hail and 1 to 1.5 inches of rain in 15 minutes.
All right.
So that's legit rain.
Yeah, that's the real deal. Here's that
Yeah.
picture that we were talking about
Oh,
that
wow.
came in on Near Me.
Yeah, that's insane.
This was from Becky in Islesboro. This is like a textbook. I mean, just what you'd expect to see
Yeah.
from a mesocyclone, at least by New England standards.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, you've got the outflow, the inflow. I mean, it's almost like a layered cake as it goes up through the instability.
Yeah, this
It's
is a
just
really
beautiful.
great picture. Not something that you want to see if you're on a
Yeah.
boat, though.
No, I also like that center console in the foreground. That's a pretty shot too, of that boat right there. That's got my eye along with that supercell.
Which one does Todd like more, the boat or the storm?
It's a hell of a lot better than my boat, for sure. One other report. Let's see. Up north. Oh, it was that 1 to 1.5 inches in 15 minutes. That's the type of stuff that could. I'm not saying it did, but it could wash out a culvert, like what
Absolutely.
happened earlier in the week out in Down East Maine. So those are the concerns when you get into these supercells. They drop insane amounts of rain too, and it's kind of an afterthought. Also, flooding is a huge concern with these storms, but it's almost an afterthought because you're more focused on a tornado if there's one on the ground, big wind gusts, straight line wind gusts, or hail. But the rain that can lead to flooding can be just as troublesome, as troublesome.
I wouldn't be surprised to hear of a couple of isolated issues, mostly just areas of poor drainage where we tend to see water pool with heavy rain like this.
Another report of 1 inch hail out on Islesboro.
Yep.
And Winslow back in Kennebec County. So this was a utility company that reported this, trees down. So CMP's got crews out already, which is great to see. They probably had crews on standby for today. Not expecting it to be this widespread, but but nonetheless they're prepared, and they clearly have their crews out trying to restore power so that you all have it shortly and not out for a couple of days. Let's see.
We got a few reports of trees down in China too.
Oh, no kidding. Yep.
Yep.
Back
That's-
near
wow,
Augusta.
That's a big tree.
Ooh, yeah, that is a big tree. That is uprooted too. It looks like.
Can we pull that up from Derek in China? Derek Fennel. Looks like there was a large tree uprooted. Give us a second. We'll pull that up. That was sent in through the Near Me section. See, this is why the Near Me section's so easy. Pull it
Yep.
right up. Don't need to worry about it.
That is pretty cool.
It was a pretty mean line of storms that rolled through.
I'm gonna, let's see. No, you're navigating on here. That's right.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Roxbury. Swing got blown over.
Oh yeah. Let's go back to the radar. There's still a couple of other warnings that are out there. Obviously the one on MDI right now, but I thought there was one up north. Yes, there is.
Yeah, that's just about to clear.
Almost through. Look at the southern
Limestone.
edge of that line.
Oh yeah.
There's some hail in there, I bet. Just south of Fort Fairfield. Right in there, yep.
And that's mean, right along Route 1.
Limestone, about to cross the border.
Heavy rain, a little bit of hail, and a lot of lightning.
6:30, so they're going to end up dropping that warning, I would think, because
Yeah.
that's going to be gone in about 10 minutes.
I don't think we're going to see much else behind this either. We've used up.
Yeah, let's cruise out. Let's see what else is out there.
There's a couple of lone cells.
Okay, and then how about south, down into southern Maine? We got anything?
and Not much else going on.
Yeah, what's that up near, coming over the border, New Hampshire? Doesn't look like it's coming up doesn't look like it's swelling up near Bridgeton there in Brownfield.
No.
So that's good. That looks like just a 15, 20 minute heavy rain shower,
Right.
maybe a clap or two of thunder, but no sign of any kind of severe weather.
Watch this one up
flare-up.
north of Jackman too.
Okay.
Heading toward Moosehead.
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of people up on Moosehead Lake this weekend for Father's Day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Thankfully, though, I'm thinking that one probably won't swell up too much either, just because the environment up there hasn't been great for it all
And
day.
they probably already had some action, so maybe that earlier stuff kind of took
Yeah.
the wind out of its sails. Hopefully.
That first batch that rolled through was not all that impressive.
Right. And then this one's about off the coast of MDI right now, and then it looks like we'll be out of harm's way, which is great. Let's see, Caribou. They still are continuing that warning up in the Caribou area for Aroostook County, and they also have the other one in Hancock County. So they're still continuing for a few more minutes.
Okay,
They'll
so
hold
they've
on.
got both those warnings.
Yep,
on.
they'll hold on to it. That makes sense.
A little bit of a convection flare up here, too. I don't think that these are going to be anything too bad, but notice it looks like they're coming
Yeah.
right off the outflow. Do you see that?
Oh yeah, look at that. You're
a
right.
little bit of outflow,
Look at that.
enhancing those storms.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. See if we can get an arrow on there to point that out, Mike. That's a good observation that you just made. I want to try this button here. Let's see if you see it up there.
Yeah, I don't see it up
No.
there.
Do you, click when you do it, maybe. No. Okay. Then there's another. Here it is. There it is. That button right there. Yep. Okay. So now if you push your mouse button, there it is. You can see the arrow. So right there.
So there's some outflow
Yep.
here that flows out from these thunderstorms
Yep.
that have moved over into Canada, and they run into these smaller showers and actually help them blow up into stronger storms. It's like a little bit of extra forcing. And here's the picture of that tree from China that I was talking about.
Oh,
Check
good.
this
Yeah.
out.
Let's pop this up.
Derek sent this in. I mean, that's like.
Well,
that's
it got uprooted.
significant.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can see the the whole like bait ball, if you will, the whole root system. You can see the grass still on the bottom of the tree there as the root system came up.
Waterville Airport gusted to 52 miles an
Yeah, I
hour,
think it
I
was-
think, as
yeah, it was
those
50 plus,
storms
right?
moved through.
Let's see, we got nickel-sized hail at the National Weather Service office
In Caribou?
In Caribou, nickel-sized hail. That's almost an inch in diameter.
Wow.
Almost 1 inch in diameter.
China. China, Maine.
Wow. That is a huge tree. Thank goodness it's out in the field.
Let's see if there's any. Just want to make sure we're not. Okay. Yeah. We don't have any rotation on these on the southern end of that line. Sometimes you can end up in an environment that just has a little bit of extra oomph in it. It can cause things to rotate, and I want to make sure we weren't going to have another sneaky supercell.
Yeah, that would not be good.
There'll be some heavy rain coming again to Mars Hill, to Monticello, to Holton. Tracking straight down 1 in Aroostook County. I'll try to get a nice video of that outflow boundary popping those storms up in a bit too.
Let's check CMP to see if there are any new outages here. Knox is up to 1,000. Somerset still with 2,000. Waldo up to about 1,000 now too. So the power outages are definitely creeping up as we get into as these reports start to creep in. We got Kennebec County with 5,221. Let's see. I bet a lot of those are in. Yep, Oakland. Oakland's got 2,500 of the outages, and Rome has about 500. That's out in the Belgrade Lakes area. Sydney also, Messalonsky Lake or Snow Pond, whichever you prefer, 481. China 500, Belgrade 600 outages. So the lakes area there in Kennebec County got hit pretty good.
Yeah, we
that's not good. There's a lot of people that are vacationing there, or at least visiting there this weekend. You know,
that line of storms that moved through the Belgrade Lakes region was mean.
Yep.
It seems that a lot of these storms have been popping like near Winthrop, just on the other side of Augusta.
Sure.
Which has been interesting to watch them track, because the first one that moved through was not nearly as impressive as the one that became tornadic.
Yeah, right. Well, yes, that's a good call. And the one behind, it's funny, that line, as it flared up, the last one in that line was the one that I was looking at originally.
Yep.
For the rotation, but it was the one that in the middle.
Yes.
Which surprised me, because usually that last one is the one that gets you. But it was the one in the middle, and that was the one that knocked out all this power here in Kennebec County. And now is we're starting to get reports of a lot of outages. Friendship Friendship has the town of Friendship has a lot of power out. 930 of their 959 customers are without power in Friendship. That's in Knox County. So the entire town essentially doesn't have power right now. Waldo County. Let's see what towns in Waldo County. Burnham. Burnham has about 750 of their 770 customers without power. So that town pretty much has most, if not all, of the outages in Waldo County right now. And we'll see if more trickle in. Wouldn't shock me if we do get reports of some more out of that area too.
I just got another video. We just got another video sent to our email.
Awesome.
Of the storm in Lincolnville. I don't see anything in this one that would immediately make me think funnel cloud.
Yeah, I don't see that either, but you can see the Mamatus.
Oh yeah, you can see the Mamatus on the backside.
Yeah,
it's real pretty.
It's gorgeous, but that's an indication of a very turbulent atmosphere, a lot of instability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's a mean-looking storm for sure. It's tough to say that. I agree with you. You can't make heads or tails out of that if there's a funnel cloud or not.
No, but great video and great submission.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that, folks at home, for sending that in. Another report out of Aroostook County. This is Easton, and this report came in at 520, estimated at 520. And we've got hail, quarter-size hail, so 1-inch diameter hail at 520. And that came in from a photo. So we'll try to locate that photo and take a look at it. That cell that's moving off of MDI looks like it has cleared now all of the Maine coast. So we could say good riddance to that. Obviously, it's a marine interest now. Anyone that's out there, hopefully they got word of it, because there's not much that they can do right now if they're in the path of it. Hopefully sail north or sail south.
Right. Thankfully a little less turbulent than it was, though.
Yeah, it's definitely weakened a little bit, which is great, but it's still capable of 50+ mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Right.
And then we have that last cell about to cross the border into New Brunswick, and that's real close to ending. That cell over in New Brunswick, the one that you were looking at south of the warned one right now, that was a nasty looking guy there.
Oh yeah, look at that.
You can see that there's definitely some low-level rotation, and this is better sampling because the radar's over
much closer
in Hodgdon. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Canadian Weather Service is issuing some sort of warning on that, and probably a tornado warning,
Yes,
right? I mean,
absolutely.
You see velocity like that, and you would think that there's definitely some concern for at least a funnel cloud, if not a tornado on the ground. So really, the only thing left over right now is this batch that you noticed start to flare up from that outflow boundary, and it's moving through central parts of Aroostook County, south of Mars Hill. Looks like it's going to pass between Mars Hill and Holton. So, if you're in those areas, anywhere on Route 1 from Holton to Mars Hill, you're going to get torrential rain.
It's going to be heavy.
Yeah, and you're going to get lightning, you're going to get thunder, and you're going to get gusty wind out of it as well.
Yeah, it's a bit gusty as it rolls through.
Yep, it's going to announce itself. There'll be a big outflow boundary with it. That's the gust front. That's the exhaling of the storm, and it'll blow right in, straight line. It's not going to be chaotic or anything, but it will be blowing in the same direction. And it could blow down some limbs and some trees, and there may be some power outages because of it. Hopefully it doesn't flare up anymore. That line has a history. The north end of that line has a history of producing big storms. They dropped 1 inch hail in several towns up there.
Yeah,
several
we got
communities.
those reports in.
Yep. So this, if it does flare up a little bit more, we've got to be on guard for it. But that should be over in New Brunswick in about a half an hour, about 30 minutes. And then the last one moving through Lincoln, that looks like, thankfully, it's weakening a little bit, just becoming a really heavy rain shower at this point, which, honestly is welcomed. This morning I woke up to the heavy raindrops. It was probably about 7:30 or so. I can't sleep late on the weekends, Mike. Even on my days off, like after working the morning shift for so long. Your body is trained to just wake up, and 7:30 was late for me. Like, that's sleeping in. I felt like a college kid again for a second. But it was nice to wake up to rain.
Yes.
Everybody just needs it, craves it, wants it. All our gardens, our lawns, all the fruit orchards, things like that. All the farmers that are out there that are just, they need every drop they can get, because irrigation is A, expensive, and B, tough to come by.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was great to get some rain earlier this morning. And this is great to see too, getting rain, not in this area, not in down East Maine. You got 4 or 5 inches of it just a couple of days ago.
Right.
I don't think at the moment you need much more. Maybe in a couple of weeks if we continue in this dry pattern. But places up near Lincoln, yeah, you're happy to see that. Aroostook County, where these storms aren't packing that much of a punch, yes, you're happy to see this rain move in. And unfortunately, summertime rain is like thunderstorms,
right?
Mostly, and
it's not like a soaking.
Yeah,
long duration
unfortunately,
rain.
It's not gentle. It doesn't get a chance to really penetrate into the soil and into the water table.
Right.
But we'll take anything at this point. A lot of it runs off, but we'll take it.
We've got another picture, another video from near me. This was from Joan in Lincolnville. Let's check that out. See what that has.
Ooh, that's hail. Yeah.
Oh,
nice.
yeah, that's real hail.
Yep. That's going to put holes in all her leaves. All her maple trees will have holes in them. All her oak trees will have holes in them. Hopefully she doesn't have any fruit trees.
I know.
It's still early in the season, though. I thought about that after I said it. Like, the apples, they're not large yet. They look like crab apples right now,
Right.
So hopefully they didn't get damaged. But, we've had countless hail events throughout the summer in past years that have completely wiped out an orchard. Hopefully there's insurance involved and you can reclaim some of that.
Right.
But, we've got tales of orchards getting wiped out. It was either last summer or the summer before. There was a car dealership down in Sanford.
Yeah, that was last summer.
Yeah.
Where they had to shovel the hail out.
Yeah, and every single one of their cars had dimples on it in their lot. So hail is nothing to back down from. It can cause big problems. Hail like that, it's not going to be a big deal. It'll melt away in a couple of hours.
Right.
But it may put some holes in leaves on trees and
Could
things
be
like
some
that.
issues. My tomato plants would not be happy.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't at all. What are you growing? Are you growing bigger ones, or are you growing the little cherries?
Cherries, and we
The
got
sun
our
golds?
first red one yesterday.
Oh, you're doing true cherry ones.
True cherries.
Awesome.
We
Good
got
for you.
the first one yesterday.
Great. How was it? Who ate it?
My girlfriend took it from me. I'm a little mad about it, but it's okay. It's okay. There are two.
Well,
more.
you're a gentleman, Michael.
Yeah.
You're a gentleman.
Right. Ladies first.
Ladies first. Right.
There's 2 more that are about to pop. So we'll
Oh,
be
good. That's awesome. Do you
All
have
right.
them in pots, or do you put them in? Do you have beds for them?
No, we've got them in pots.
In pots. Yeah, that's the best way to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, it's so
Wicked
simple.
easy. Wicked
Yeah,
easy.
Agreed.
All right. One more time, if you can safely send us things on near me, we'd love to see it. And we're going to try to get a lot of these pictures and videos in to the 11 p.m. newscast as you may have noticed, we don't have a 6 p.m. newscast. That's because of the Open.
The U.S. Open, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I think we've done enough weather for the day, too. I mean, I'm good with taking a little break here.
Right. You can get yourself some dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm gonna end up doing the same.
We'll run through a little forecast here just so everybody's on the same page with what to expect. I'm just going to start with the highs reached today.
Cool. I think I'm gonna head out.
Sounds good.
It looks like things are settling down.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the help.
Awesome
Much
job,
appreciated.
getting on the air and getting everything out there and getting the pertinent information to folks, that were in harm's way.
Thank you.
And again we'll find out in the next few days, what went down, whether these were straight line winds or a microburst or something like that, or if we did actually have a tornado that came in this afternoon. So
I'll be in
stay
touch
with Mike throughout the evening. He's got you.
He's
got you covered. You're in good hands with him. And I'm going to check out for the evening now. I'll see you again on Monday morning. Hopefully we'll see. Hopefully there aren't any crazy phone calls again.
Right.
We'll see.
I hope this is the end of it.
Right.
Thanks again for coming and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So let's talk.
Oh, and happy Father's Day to all dads out there. We should probably pass that along too. It is an exciting weekend for anyone that is a father or stepfather.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you too.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
All right, let's run through the forecast quickly here just to give everybody a quick update on what to expect for the remainder of the evening. Again, I think that the strongest storms are winding down. A few more heavy downpours in parts of the county, and after that, I don't think we'll be talking much more about rain tonight. Skies will gradually clear out, still expecting some cloud cover to linger into the day tomorrow. Highs reached today, got to 86 in Portland, 87 in Sanford, 76 in Bangor, 77 in Millinocket, and 75 in Rockland. We did see some 80s in central Maine too, 82 in Augusta, 80 in Waterville. Current temperatures not quite as strong as they were. Not as quite as high as they were, rather, and we still have those storms, especially in northern Maine. But the environment there just isn't as supportive for those strong to severe storms. So we'll be watching that to see if things change. Tonight, really not expecting much more out of this, though. By about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, we should see a lot of clearing skies in northern Maine where that drier air can move in. But southern Maine, we keep a lot of the clouds around. Temperatures 50s inland, 60s at the coastline. Warming up pretty quickly tomorrow with a lot of sunshine. Great weather for Father's Day. You do not have to worry about anything like this for Father's Day. Hour-by-hour forecast showing temperatures topping out in the 80s tomorrow afternoon. With sunny skies, maybe a handful of light pop-up showers, but really don't expect anything all that impressive. I do think we bring back the severe weather risk Monday and Tuesday. So as we get into the start of the week, we could see a few more stronger storms fire up, and that's all thanks to the remnants of that tropical system. So take a look at this. There's the cold front that rolled on through. Drier weather on the way tomorrow. High pressure in control. Really just a nice day. But we introduced tropical moisture back on Monday, and we have a cold front that approaches. Out ahead of this front Monday evening, there could be a few thunderstorms, but I'm more interested in what happens on Tuesday. I think we could be talking about a couple of strong to severe storms on Tuesday, so we'll see how that all works out. Let's break down the forecast for you here. I jumped ahead too far. There we go. 7-day forecast for tomorrow, mid-80s inland, stray afternoon storm on Monday, possibly strong, but the better threat for severe weather comes on Tuesday. And then the end of the week is just going to be absolutely gorgeous. Sunny, low humidity, temperatures in the 70s, really just solid weather. Same idea at the coastline. I'm not concerned quite as much about the storm threat on Monday. I think it's going to be more inland than at the coast, but still certainly not zero at the coastline. And then we'll have to watch for Tuesday. Thanks everybody who's hung with us today. A lot of weather information, and of course you never want to see strong to severe storms like that, but whenever that happens, we are here for you. And again, one last time, you can send in any pictures or videos on the Near Me section of our app. I'm going to take a break, drink some water, and eat some food. I will see you guys tonight at 11.